Chapter 518. In a remote corner of the heavenly netherworld altar, a light suddenly flashed, and 4 figures appeared out of thin air. If there was someone nearby, they would definitely be shocked. "We're in." Tianyan looked around. The area they were in was a small corner. It was not a room, it was the outermost edge. It had taken him a lot of effort to forcefully probe his way in, and he had even found this relatively secluded place to enter. Other places were really inconvenient. "What, we're in?" They were shocked, and after looking around, they found that they were really in. Everything was so magical and shocking. "Did you use teleportation?" After recovering from the shock, they immediately looked at Tianyan, and their eyes were full of horror. "You can say that." Tianyan smiled. After his teleportation was upgraded, there was no problem for him to bring 3 people in, and the distance was even more amazing. So compared to before, he had a greater chance of escaping, and there were no restrictions. No matter what divine runes were useless to him, he could still easily escape with teleportation. What formation to trap him? It was truly useless. He could escape with a single teleportation. There was no meaning to it. "God, you can also teleport. Is it a rare spatial physique? No wonder you said that you can fight here alone. With this skill, we are much weaker than you in escaping." After Elder Luo and the others recovered, they were still shocked. These were all rare things, and they were all gathered on one person. It was really incredible. Now is not the time to talk about this kind of thing. We should sneak in, we don't have much time. Tianyan's eyes flashed, and his figure quickly disappeared in front of them. Elder Luo and the others nodded to each other. Their eyes were full of confidence. They believed that they would definitely complete the task this time. Immediately they all hid themselves and followed Tianyan. Tianyan did not immediately follow the map provided by Shui Huang, but followed the map provided by Shui Huang. Since she gave him this information, it must be correct. He believed that this should be a treasure house, and he could go there first, and then go to the location of the Netherworld treasure map. Inside the heavenly Netherworld altar, it was as magnificent as it looked from the outside. The hard stones were not ordinary stones, but a kind of profound golden stone. Even a Spirit King stage cultivator would not be able to move it. The entire heaven underworld altar was made of this kind of stone, so once one was trapped, there was no hope of breaking through the walls. It was impossible. Not only was the toughness of the stone unshakable, the divine inscriptions inscribed on it were all at the level of a grandmaster. Not a single one of them was lower than a grandmaster. How terrifying. This place was much stronger than the Netherworld prison. It was on a completely different level. Even Tianyan couldn't easily break through it. It should be said that there was no way to break it. Unless the level of the divine inscription was raised to the next level, there was no way to break it. This was the work of a god king, so how could he break it? But he didn't have to worry about this now. As he sneaked along the way, he soon encountered a group of patrolling cultivators. The cultivators leading the group were not strong. They were all cultivators of core transformation stage. Although the heavenly netherworld divine nation was strong, they didn't have void spirit stage powerhouses. If void spirit stage powerhouses were everywhere, they could just kill them directly. Why would they need to plot so much? "Go." Tianyan signaled with his eyes, and his figure flashed quickly behind them. With a heavy blow, a hidden force poured into their bodies and instantly exploded. In the blink of an eye, all 5 guards were killed by Tianyan. Elder Luo didn't even have time to act, but Tianyan already killed all of them. Not even their skin was touched. "Divine Messenger, aren't you a little too fast?" Elder Luo couldn't help but give a thumbs up. "Compared to Elder Yi, your assassination ability is not bad." Tianyan smiled and said, "It's just SOSO. Immediately, they immediately cleaned up the corpses. The most direct way was to hide the corpses in the corner. This place was quite spacious, so there was no problem hiding the corpses. It's just that after a long time, they would soon be discovered." Suddenly, a team of patrolling guards disappeared, and they believed that they would soon find something strange. But it would take a lot of time, so it would not be difficult for them. "Let's go this way." Tianyan's figure disappeared again, and then quickly sneaked in. They were stunned for a moment, and found that this route was not the same as the route given by Shui Huang. but they immediately followed without asking a word. Soon after a few laps, they came directly in front of a dead end. A dead end? They were all stunned. They didn't expect that Etianyan would bring them to a dead end. Etianyan didn't say a word and gently patted the wall. Suddenly, a hole appeared in the wall, and he slipped in. Elder Luo and the others were shocked. They didn't expect it to be a hidden path. They quickly followed, and soon the stone wall quickly closed. As soon as it closed, a patrol passed by, and several of them heard the sound and looked over. "Did you hear something just now?" One of them wondered. "I heard it. It seems like the sound of stones rubbing against each other. It came from over there." They all walked over and found that there was only a stone wall, and there was nothing there. They were puzzled. There was nothing here, so how could there be a sound? Is there a leak in the wall, or is the sound coming from another place? They scratched their heads and finally left. They didn't know how many times they had been here, so they knew whether there was a hidden mechanism or not. However, they didn't know that there was a hidden mechanism here. After Etianyan and the others came in, it was still very bright, so there was no problem. All the way forward, they didn't know where it led to. "There is a secret passage here, we can't see it." Elder Lei was shocked. They thought that Etianyan was leading the wrong way, but it turned out that there was a secret passage. "If you can see it, then you can lead the way." Elder Luo gave him a look. "I just sighed, is there a need to say that?" Elder Lei retorted. "Oh, okay. This is a secret passage. I don't know if other people know about it, but this road can easily lead us to the treasure house." Etianyan obtained the underworld treasure map, so he knew all the secret passages inside. But just because he knew about it, it didn't mean that others didn't know about it. Maybe the patrols didn't know about it, but maybe Ming Chen knew about it. Chapter 519. Under Etianyan's lead, the road was smooth and easy. There was no difficulty at all. There were a lot of patrols outside the passage, but they couldn't detect the situation inside. Unless their spiritual sense was very powerful, they couldn't penetrate the thick walls and find out their existence. If they could detect the situation inside, the secret passage would be useless. After all, there was no point in using the secret passage anymore. It's good that someone knows the route here. We don't need to sneak in slowly anymore. Now that we have reached our destination, it's really easy. I was a little nervous when I first came here. Shopkeeper Yi smiled, but he didn't relax his grip on the dagger in his hand. He had to be vigilant, he couldn't let his guard down. This was someone else's territory, not his own, so he couldn't let his guard down. The other elders were the same. They didn't relax and looked around vigilantly. "Wait." Etianyan waved his hand and signaled them to stop. He turned his head and looked to the side. When they looked at the side, they were startled and immediately became angry. With their spiritual sense, they could easily detect the situation outside. Although they couldn't detect the situation outside, they could easily detect the situation outside. In their spiritual sense, they saw a Spirit King stage powerhouse soaking in the blood pool. And there were a lot of corpses around him. There were corpses of all ages, but they were all female. All the corpses he caught were female, not male, and they were all young girls. Among them, there were many Phoenix race's corpses, and now they were hanging on the side, twitching. Their blood was constantly flowing into the blood pool. He was holding a woman in his arms, and they were doing some improper things. "It's too slow. Why did the Phoenix race take so long? Didn't they say that they would send a few phoenixes to us?" Men whose eyes were like a tiger's eyes, and he was very dissatisfied when he saw that the blood on the corpses was almost drained. Men who, third layer Spirit King stage, Heavenly Tiger's bloodline, can release a domineering tiger aura, and has a strong physique comparable to a low-grade sacred tool. Martial arts, tiger explosion, tiger roar, tiger golden body, etc. Weakness is an inch below the neck, the weakest part. Combat power, 230 million. If you kill it, you will obtain. Etianyan couldn't be bothered to read the details. He only felt the rage in his heart. The cultivators who were captured had eyes filled with despair, but most of them were resentment and unwillingness. In the prime of his life, he was captured by men who drained of his blood until he died. In fact, he even had his essence stolen by men who. He really couldn't accept this. This guy is Menhu, one of the experts stationed at the Heaven Netherworld altar. His power is very domineering, and he has the bloodline of the Heavenly Tiger. I didn't expect to meet him here. He has always done evil, and I heard that he likes to absorb the essence of women. Now it seems like it's true. This guy really deserves to die. He even captured a member of our Phoenix race. We have to come up with a plan to deal with him. Yes, I agreed. The area he was in was rather hidden. Even if we burst out, the outside world wouldn't be able to sense it. To be able to kill one or two of the three generals is equivalent to breaking the wings of the Nether Heaven Divine Kingdom. Then let's discuss how to deal with him. The three of us will attack him together, and the Divine Messenger will be responsible for guarding outside. When they wanted to ask for Etienne's opinion, they found that he had already disappeared. They didn't know where he went, and the surroundings were empty. Apart from the three of them, there was no one else around. Give me a quick death. The captured woman was lying powerlessly in a pool of blood. Her blood was constantly being extracted by the divine rune under her body and flowed into the blood pool, strengthening the blood energy in the blood pool for Menhu to absorb. This begging sound is really the most beautiful sound in the world. Menhu was immersed in the pleasure of listening to the sound of begging for mercy, and he felt very comfortable. At the moment when he relaxed and enjoyed the feeling, a sharp light fiercely swept over, and a sudden sense of crisis came from behind, causing him to jump up. But everything was too slow. The sharp light had already pierced the area below his neck, and like piercing through a piece of paper, it easily pierced through his entire body. Even if his body was comparable to a low-grade holy tool, it was too weak to withstand such an attack. Before he could react, the domineering power directly smashed into his stomach, directly shattering many bones in his body and shattering a large part of them. After a huge suction force violently sucked the spiritual power out of his body. A small half of the spiritual power in his body was instantly lost, and he felt like he was being sucked dry. You. Who are you? When Menhu reacted, he was already like a fish on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. The person who appeared in front of him was a young man with cold eyes, and his palm was placed on his chest, constantly sucking the spiritual power out of his body. However, he couldn't move at all. The long sword behind him had pierced through his body and nailed him to the ground, causing him to float in the air. His feet couldn't touch the ground. At most, he could move his feet slightly, but he couldn't move anything else. A dignified Spirit King stage expert was instantly controlled, and he couldn't react at all. The one who enforces justice on behalf of heaven. The person who appeared in front of Menhu was undoubtedly Etienne. Etienne's eyes were filled with cold killing intent, but he wouldn't let Menhu die so easily. Someone come. There's an assassin. Menhu shouted loudly, and his deafening voice resounded in the room, but no one rushed in from the outside. His voice was completely blocked by the divine rune outside. It's useless. You can't even shout your lungs out. I've set up a soundproof divine rune here. You can't even hear your voice. Etienne said expressionlessly. He didn't do this to earn EXP, but to completely suck the spiritual power out of Menhu's body so that he could torture him better. You. When did you set up sound isolation divine rune? Why didn't I notice it? Menhu was shocked. Although he had been staying here for a long time, he didn't know that Etienne had set up sound isolation divine rune. What if I let you know? Etienne sneered. Chapter 520. Menhu was completely scared. He was a powerful person, and it seemed like he was going to die. No matter how loud he shouted, it would be useless. If he used his fierce tiger roar in his normal state, the outside world would definitely know about it. Now that his spine was sealed by the longsword, the bones in his body were so fragile that they were shattered in an instant. This made him unable to save him, and he couldn't even attack. All of this happened in a split second, and he didn't even have the chance to resist. At this time, Elder Luo and the others came in from the secret passage. If they opened the door normally, they would definitely be discovered. Etienne used teleportation and invisibility to perfect his plan. Fortunately, the cooldown was just over, and after leveling up, the cooldown was reduced, so when he sneaked in, the cooldown was already over. When Yi Tianyan saw Menhu, he threw all his plans to the back of his mind. He wanted to kill Menhu first. He might not be a good person, but he couldn't just ignore the situation. Menhu was killed in an instant. This is unbelievable. When they came in, they found that there was a soundproof divine rune in the secret passage. Yi Tianyan's speed was really amazing, and they didn't even have time to react. The most important thing was that Menhu was killed in an instant. How could a Void Spirit stage expert kill a Spirit King stage expert in an instant, even if it was a sneak attack? Such a strong body, but it was so weak that it couldn't even withstand a single blow. When they looked carefully, they noticed that the sword that pierced through Menhu's back was not a low-grade high-rank sacred tool. No wonder it could pierce through Menhu's body so easily. All of this was beyond their expectation. Even if the weapon was strong, it couldn't be that amazing, right? Yi Tianyan naturally activated crazy mode, and he didn't hold back much. He instantly burst out with his strongest attack power, and his combat power reached more than 500 million. He wanted to kill Menhu in one move, and he didn't want to waste any time. The three elders swallowed their saliva, and they felt a chill down their spine. If Yi Tianyan attacked them, they would definitely suffer the same fate. A third-layer Spirit King stage expert was killed just like that, and they felt that they were in a bad situation. Initially, they wanted to kill him with everything they had. But now, it seemed that they didn't even need to show up, they just needed to come in and save Menhu. Hurry up and save him, Yi Tianyan said in a low voice. They nodded and immediately began to rescue people. However, after strolling around, their expressions became more and more solemn. Haha, save them, don't even think about it. They're dead for sure. No matter what you do, there's no way to save them. Menhu laughed heartily. But before long, an intense pain came from his abdomen. A small knife appeared in Yi Tianyan's hand, and he fiercely stabbed him a few times, causing him to feel intense pain. More importantly, a wave of flames quickly spread in and burned his body bit by bit. To them, this kind of injury was nothing, but under the crazy burning of the flames, the pain was really unbearable. Don't worry, you will soon be buried with them. Yi Tianyan's eyes were cold. This kind of person couldn't be compensated even if he died 10,000 times. Kill me. Kill me if you dare. Menhu knew that it was impossible for him to survive. Instead of surrendering, he might as well let the other party kill him and end his suffering. Killing you so easily would be letting you off too easily. Yi Tianyan used the immortal fire to burn Menhu's body bit by bit, starting from his legs and burning it up bit by bit. During this period, he constantly devoured the spiritual power in Menhu's body and turned it into his own experience. Divine emissaries, there are only 3 left alive. They brought 3 women over, but they were already on the verge of death. But when they saw Menhu's fate, their eyes were filled with joy and joy. Many thanks. After breaking free from the shackles, they smiled at Yi Tianyan, but soon bit their tongues to commit suicide, unwilling to live any longer in this world. They could have continued to live in this world after treatment, but they didn't want to. Their bodies were tainted, and they suffered such torture. There was not a single part of their body that was unharmed. If they could commit suicide before, they would have already done so instead of living like this. One of them was a cultivator from the Phoenix race, and he also smiled at them and said softly, "Thank you, human race. Phoenix race thanks you." Elder Luo and the others quickly took off their masks, revealing their faces, and hurriedly said, "We are elders, we are here to save you." When the woman from the Phoenix race saw them, she showed a surprised look, but soon it turned into a warm smile. "Elders, I knew you would come to save us, but I can't live for long, and I don't want to live anymore, I'm sorry." After saying that, she also chose to commit suicide, not choosing to live. They had suffered too much torture and pain, and if they lived, they would remember this painful memory every day. They knew that they could take revenge, and that was enough. They didn't think much about the rest. Bastard. They watched their own people choose to commit suicide, but there was nothing they could do. Yi Tianyan looked at them, his eyes full of coldness. He could save them, but they had no desire to live at all. Even if he saved them, they would choose to commit suicide. The pain and torture for too long had become a permanent mark in their hearts, and their minds were fragile, and they would soon collapse. Instead of that, they might as well choose to commit suicide and end everything. Elder Luo and the others clenched their fists and looked at Menhu angrily. "You bastard!" When Menhu saw Elder Luo and the others, he was also surprised. "So it's you. How did you sneak in?" "Don't worry, not only did we sneak in, but we will also kill you one by one. Your heavenly netherworld divine nation has done all kinds of bad things. I will punish you on behalf of the heavens, and destroy you all," Itianyan said sternly. "Haha. Punish on behalf of the heavens? Your phoenix race has no chance of winning, you are dead. I will wait for you down there." Menhu laughed coldly, his eyes full of resentment. "Ah!" But not long after, he continued to scream. Itianyan increased the strength of his flames, and the speed of the burning increased a bit. The intense pain made him even more unbearable. "Don't worry, we won't go down there. You will soon see others go down to accompany you," Itianyan said indifferently. "But before that, you should enjoy everything." He didn't plan to kill Menhu immediately, he wanted to let him enjoy everything, otherwise he would die a happy death. Soon, he drained all of Menhu's experience, and Menhu was now a cripple, unable to fight back, let alone commit suicide. "Don't you want to give him a few blows?" Itianyan turned his head and looked at Elder Luo and the others. "Of course." Chapter 521. Ding. Successfully killed Menhu. Reward, 130 million EXP, 13,000 crazy.5000 SPs. Reward, Heavenly Tiger Armor, High-Grade Sacred Tool, Heavenly Tiger Boots, High-Grade Sacred Tool, Heavenly Tiger Claws, High-Grade Sacred Tool, Heavenly Tiger Bloodline, Earth Level Mid-Grade Rare. Cooldown Divine Pill Rare, cooldown all skills. Menhu's life didn't last long before he was killed by Itianyan. They didn't want to waste any more time here. If they were discovered, then their plan would be hindered, so they could only end Menhu's life. At least they solved everything that needed to be solved and avenged those who died. "No extra reward, this is too stingy," Itianyan frowned. He thought he could get an extra reward, but he didn't expect that even a third-layer Spirit King stage cultivator wouldn't get an extra reward. But it was true that he could easily crush a third-layer Spirit King stage cultivator, so it was too difficult to get an extra reward. "Let's go, let's leave this place." Itianyan reached out his hand and cremated the corpses, then put them into a box. After leaving this place, he would find a place to bury them. He would not let these corpses stay here. It would be hard for him to find peace. Elder Luo and the others nodded. They first placed Menhu's body in the blood pool, and arranged it so that it looked like it was soaking in the blood pool. If the guards opened the door, they would think that Menhu was sleeping. This way, they would be able to buy some time, which was very beneficial to them. "Divine Messenger, you are so strong that you can easily kill a Spirit King stage cultivator?" They have a new understanding of Itianyan's strength. It's too shocking, and they still haven't recovered from it. "Yes, is it possible that he is a Spirit King stage cultivator?" They felt that they had greatly underestimated Itianyan's strength. Before, they thought that Itianyan was too bold, but now it seems that their judgment was wrong. In the blink of an eye, Itianyan controlled Menhu. Which one of them could do this? "I don't have a Spirit King stage cultivation. I'm only a Void Spirit stage cultivator." Itianyan smiled and said, "I won because of a sneak attack. He was too careless. That's why I could easily control him." They looked at each other. Although Itianyan said so, they already have a few ideas in their mind. At least they don't treat Itianyan as a Void Spirit expert, but as a Spirit King expert. If Itianyan was a Void Spirit stage cultivator, then he would be able to do a sneak attack. Shopkeeper Yi asked himself, he can't even do this, he doesn't know how Itianyan did it. He doesn't know how Itianyan did it. Even a Spirit King stage cultivator wouldn't be able to detect his presence. This was the effect of the divine skill. If it weren't for the three elders, Itianyan would be able to enter the treasure vault without anyone noticing his presence. Unless it was a Spirit King stage cultivator or a Saint King stage cultivator, no one would be able to detect his presence. According to the explanation of the invisibility technique, Unless it was a Spirit King stage cultivator or a Spirit King stage cultivator, no one would be able to detect his presence. However, there was still another way to stop him, and that was to use a restrictive type of divine inscription. Invisibility was useless against divine inscriptions. The treasure vault is in front of us. We can't enter it from here, so we have to attack from the front, Tianyan said solemnly. They nodded. This was the most important battle. As long as they finished looting the treasure vault, they would immediately slip away. Soon they arrived at the treasure vault, and Tianyan lightly tapped on the wall. Soon the stone door opened slightly. The stone door wouldn't make a loud noise, so it was better not to come in. After they came out, the stone door quickly closed. The place where they came out from was a relatively remote corner. These were all designed to be around the corner, so after they came out, there were not many soldiers guarding it. They glanced at each other, and quickly went into the treasure vault. After turning a corner, a door appeared in front of them. There were 4 Void Spirit stage experts guarding the door. They looked a bit sloppy. They probably thought that no one could break through this place, so they just stayed there and chatted with each other. Soon someone delivered something, and after checking it, the guard nodded and said, "Well, you can go now." The cultivators who were transported over nodded and quickly left. The guards pushed the door open and took the things that were transported in. In fact, it was just a storage ring, but it was not clear what was inside. In short, there were cultivators who delivered things, and Bai Shuihuang must have gotten the information from them, but it was not clear how many things were inside. No matter what was inside, it was definitely not simple, because the things they sent in were relatively simple and crude. All of them were spirit herbs or medicinal pills. Although they weren't weapons, spirit herbs were more important. This was the foundation of cultivation, so the more the better. What these cultivators brought over were only elixirs and elixirs. Other than that, they didn't want anything else. What's inside? Maybe there are countless medicinal pills or spirit herbs stored inside. Elder Luo looked at the door over there and frowned. Tianyan used his spiritual sense to explore, and found that it was even more difficult to explore. He couldn't go inside at all. It was much more difficult to explore than outside. Outside he could still force his way in, but here he couldn't explore anything. No matter what, we'll know when we break in. The 4 guards have no problem solving it. It's just that there are people coming here all the time, so we don't have much time. They glanced around and found that there weren't many patrols here, but in less than an incense stick worth of time, they would pass by here. And after a while, cultivators would send things like spirit herbs over. Once they arrived, the guards would store them, and it wouldn't take long for them to come out. It's almost time, let's go. After waiting for a while, Tianyan rushed forward without hesitation. The 4 guards didn't have time to react. They were easily killed by Tianyan. They can't even make a sound. After dealing with the guards, they quickly opened the door and dragged the 4 corpses inside. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared and hid inside. Chapter 522. In front of them, there were thousands of demon beasts, all locked in cages. This was a huge cage, imprisoning thousands of demon beasts. There were all kinds of demonic beasts here. Regardless of whether they were intelligent phoenixes, giant dragons, or unintelligent tigers and giant bears, they were all imprisoned here. The number of thousands of demon beasts was quite spectacular. The key point was that the cultivation of these demon beasts was not low. All of them were above the core transformation stage. Some were even as high as the void spirit stage. When they broke in, they found that several cultivators were constantly throwing out spiritual herbs from their storage rings and feeding them to these demon beasts. It seemed that they were just keeping them in captivity, letting them continue to grow. When these demon beasts were trapped inside, they either refused to eat or obediently ate. If they refused, these cultivators would force them in and force them to take the spiritual herbs. Those that were obedient were much easier to deal with. They were thrown directly into the cage, so that they could eat slowly. You've brought more spiritual herbs so quickly? I'll come and get them now. Who are you people? The breeder inside turned his head and was stunned when he saw the 4 strangers. Immediately, Tianyan's eyes became cold, and quickly rushed over there, easily killing all of them on the spot. These breeders' cultivation was not high, they were only at the core transformation stage, so they were easily killed without any resistance. These demonic beasts were all imprisoned and couldn't even commit suicide. Therefore, there was no need for experts with high cultivation to be their keepers. They also didn't want to do this kind of thing. I thought this would be a treasure house, but it seems that we were wrong. This is not a treasure house at all, but a bunch of demon beasts in captivity. It seems that they want to domesticate them and then make them their army. Etianyan was shocked. He thought that he could rob a lot of spiritual herbs, but he didn't expect that it was just a breeding ground. The information was not wrong, there seemed to be a lot of spiritual herbs here, but in fact, they were all transported here for a large number of demon beasts to eat. Only by feeding them for a long time could they be domesticated. Yes, there is some venom here, venom that can domesticate them. Elder Luo found a jar of liquid on the side by side, with a lot of spiritual herbs and elixirs soaked in it. Only after it was soaked would it be given to them. It seemed that most of the demon beasts didn't need to be forced to eat. They should be gradually domesticated after taking these poisons, and then they would eat the spiritual herbs thrown in. Demon beasts above the core transformation stage, even if they didn't have spiritual wisdom, would be extremely resistant to imprisonment. Resistance was inevitable. They would rather die than put down their dignity. However, after forcefully injecting the venom, the result was that it would gradually be tamed. In order to strengthen the effects, it would definitely continue to consume the venom. Etianyan looked over there, and detailed information appeared in front of him. After taking it for a long time, it could control the mind of human or demon beasts and make them obey its orders. The side effect is that the life is greatly reduced, and it is easy to die. The poison was really powerful, but after taking it for a long time, of the body of the effect. Usually these could be determined. Therefore, one could only forcefully infuse it into the body before taking it. Well, we didn't find the treasure house, but we found the demon beast house. Etianyan's eyes sunk. Well, we didn't find the treasure house, but we found the demon beast house. Etianyan's eyes darkened. Thinking about it carefully, the Tianming altar was not the headquarters, so it was normal for there to be no treasures hidden here. The real place where the treasures were hidden must be in the Tianming imperial capital, not in the Tianming altar. It was just that the news they got at the beginning was that people often transported spiritual herbs here, so it was really mistaken as a treasure house. While strengthening their own strength, they could also deal a heavy blow to the Tianming divine kingdom. Unfortunately, there was only a group of demon beasts here, and there were no spiritual herbs. However, there were still a lot of spiritual herbs, especially those that had not been soaked in venom. With so many demon beasts, there must be a lot of spiritual herbs fed to them, so they had to be continuously transported from outside. The information is wrong, it seems that we came here in vain. Elder Lei sighed. Although there were still a lot of spiritual herbs here, it was still too little than expected. We didn't come here in vain. These are all their painstaking efforts. If we let them out or kill them all, then all their efforts will be in vain. Shopkeeper Yi had his own ideas. With so many demon beasts tamed, it was impossible for them to tame them, unless they spent a lot of time taming them, but the price would not be low. Therefore, the best way was to let them out and let them attack at will, or be killed by them. They didn't know how long it took them to train so many demon beasts, but it must have cost them a lot. The higher the cultivation, the longer it would take to tame them. If these demon beasts were tamed into an army, their combat power would be amazing, and they would definitely be a powerful army with core transformation stage cultivation. No need, I will take care of these demon beasts. Etianyan looked up at the group of demon beasts, and his heart was a little excited. For them, the only way to solve this problem was to drive them out and kill them. This was undoubtedly a great waste for him. He could successfully capture them by capturing them, and they would be absolutely loyal. In this state, he could build an extremely powerful force in his own empire. Thousands of demon beasts, and all of them were above the core transformation stage. How could he not be excited? You will take care of them? Kill them? Although they couldn't bear to do it, they really couldn't take the domesticated demon beasts away. They couldn't put a group of demon beasts into the storage ring, because the storage ring couldn't put the demon beasts in, unless they were dead. At present, most of the storage rings could only put dead things, not living things at all. Of course not, I will take them away. This way, the heavenly netherworld divine nation will lose a lot of money. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. This was actually equivalent to a big treasure house for him. Take them away? Do you have a living storage ring? They were all surprised. Living storage rings were not very rare, but the space was very small. After all, the difficulty of making a living storage ring was much higher than a normal storage ring. Almost. Yi Tianyun flew over and said, "You guys investigate the situation outside first. I will take these demon beasts away." No problem. They looked at each other. Since Yi Tianyun said so, they would let him do it. Chapter 523. Yi Tianyun didn't dawdle, he immediately flew up and began to catch these demon beasts, basically one after another. There was no resistance at all. After successfully catching them, they were immediately kept in the pet space. When the elders guarding outside saw the situation here, they all nodded. It seems that there is no problem to keep them in. If it is an ordinary storage ring, there is no way to keep living things in it. If it can be kept at will like a storage ring, it is estimated that people will be trapped in it at will. Of course, living things can't be easily kept in the storage ring. After all, they will resist. If they choose not to resist, they will really be absorbed. For those weak ones, it can be easily carried on their body without any harm. Ding, successfully subdued the giant bear. Gained 2 million EXP. Pet capture skill proficiency increased by 600 points. Ding, successfully subdued the giant tiger. Gained 1,700,000 EXP. Pet capture skill proficiency increased by 500 points. Ding, successfully subdued. He quickly caught the beasts. If the first time is unsuccessful, then he will use it a second time. If the second time is unsuccessful, then he will use it a third time. If it didn't even succeed the third time, he would give it a vicious punch before subduing it. In this way, there were no pets that could not be subdued by him, and he could easily subdue them into the pet bar. The capacity of this pet bar is almost endless. There is no limit at all. As long as you can catch a pet, you can put it in. As much as you can, it is completely infinite space. This is the same as the inventory, it has infinite space. Fortunately, there is infinite space. If you want to buy it, you don't know how much crazy point it will cost. Collect, collect, collect. Yi Tianyun's speed is getting faster and faster, and suddenly hundreds of beasts were easily subdued. If they see this situation, they will definitely vomit blood. They have worked so hard to cultivate the beasts for so long, they will definitely vomit blood when they are taken away. Someone is coming. Let's put on the guard's clothes and go out. Elder Luo and the others have already put on the guard's clothes and walked out. After a while, the door opened again, and Elder Luo walked in with a storage ring in his hand. Fortunately, they didn't recognize it. Elder Luo smiled, and his eyes were full of surprise. Fortunately, he had not been seen through, or the battle would have been inevitable. Yi Tianyun looked over and nodded. It seemed that these cultivators who came to deliver the elixirs were not very familiar with the guards. Even if they had seen the guards before, the guards would be replaced. Therefore, they only needed to give the elixirs. There was no need to look into other matters. Moreover, who would have thought that someone from the outside world would successfully sneak in and even disguise as a guard here? Following that, he calmly began to frantically capture them. His speed became faster and faster, and in a short while more than half of the demonic beasts were captured by him. Ding. Successfully raised Advanced Pet Capturing Mastery to Master Pet Capturing Mastery. After leveling up, the success rate of capturing monsters had greatly increased. Basically, he could capture one monster with a single attempt. His efficiency had also increased significantly. Awesome! Yi Tianyun exclaimed in his heart. Compared to the previous attempts, this was much faster. Since their grades were completely different, the speed at which they captured them was naturally different. As the number of monsters he captured increased, he became more and more excited. After returning this time, he would hand over all these pets to Heavenly Cloud Mansion, and they would be able to form a powerful team in an instant. Even if the Imperial forces came to attack them, they would not be afraid at all. Bang, bang, bang. Sounds of fighting came from outside, but Tianyan didn't pay attention to it. He only needed to capture the demonic beasts, and he would leave the rest to them. Soon, they dragged a few corpses from the outside. They were all patrolmen. Sure enough, these guys can still recognize us. Fortunately, I was smart enough to kill them immediately. Otherwise, they would have already reported it to the authorities. Shopkeeper Yi wiped his sweat. It was like dancing on a sharp knife, and he would be cut in half if he was not careful. After all, there were walls on all sides, and a little carelessness could lead to being trapped here. We have already caught so many, this speed is too fast. When they looked up, they found that most of the demonic beasts here were gone. There were only 200 or 300 demonic beasts left. After capturing them, they could leave. They didn't care about the other treasures for the time being. They didn't want to be trapped here. Isn't the storage capacity of the divine messenger's living storage ring a little too big? After collecting so many, can it still continue to collect? They wondered if Tianyan killed them and collected them. If they looked closely, they found that Tianyan waved his hand, and the light enveloped those demonic beasts. Then, these demonic beasts' eyes were confused, and they were quickly collected without struggling. Fortunately, we brought the divine messenger this time. Otherwise, it would be difficult for us. We could only kill so many demonic beasts. Elder Lei sighed. Kill them? Whether we can come in smoothly is another matter. Elder Luo said. Let's continue to guard outside and wait for the divine messenger to finish collecting them. If you encounter danger or are discovered, quickly hide inside, I will take you out. Tianyan shouted, and his hands didn't stop at all. What? We can still escape from here? They looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. This was a little beyond their understanding. They didn't ask much and immediately went out to guard. Since Tianyan said so, it must be so. However, this situation didn't last long. Soon, they rushed him from the outside and fiercely closed the door and blocked it from the inside. Boom. Accompanied by a loud noise, the whole door slightly shook, as if a house was being demolished. What's going on? Tianyan asked while quickly catching the demonic beasts. I didn't expect them to see through us. In addition to Baron, there is another General Neo-Tunshin who is no weaker than Baron. The worst is Heavenly Netherworld Divine Nation's Mingchen. I didn't expect him to also come. Elder Luo said with an ugly face. Even Mingchen is here? Tianyun's eyes flashed. He didn't expect Mingchen to also come here. Yes, in addition, Mingchen's companions also came. There are 4 Spirit King stage experts, and a lot of Void Spirit stage experts. It seems that we were discovered in the end. Their faces were dignified. The door in front of them was bombarded crazily, making a deafening sound that resounded throughout the room. Although the divine runes here were very strong, it was only a matter of time before it was broken. Chapter 524. How can someone sneak in here? Can't the guards see anything? A rough-looking man stared at the gate coldly. They took turns to attack the gate, trying to destroy the divine rune on the gate. But as the guards attacked, the divine rune dimmed little by little. It seemed like it wouldn't take long before it was destroyed. With so many experts taking turns to attack, if they couldn't even destroy a gate, they would be ashamed to face others. Although the divine rune here was very hard, it wasn't a creator-level divine rune, so it wasn't very difficult to destroy it. I don't know. The patrolmen were trembling in fear. They were worried that they would be punished. Pa. The patrolman was slapped heavily on the face of the patrolman. He was sent flying to the wall. He died instantly. I don't know, what else can you say? The rough-looking man was barren. Dragon scales could be seen on his body. It was rumored that he had the blood of a dragon. He wasn't like other cultivators who absorbed dragon blood to strengthen themselves. He was a dragon himself. He was a dragon man, an expert who had the blood of a dragon. Barren, their cultivation is so low, what can they find out? Even men who was killed, I believe that they are at the Spirit King stage. How can they find out? Ming Chun, who was next to him, stood up and said coldly, I'm just curious as to how they managed to sneak in. The guards outside are all fine. It's really strange that they managed to sneak in so easily. Could it be that they have some way to sneak in here? A sturdy man with a bull's horn on his head. It was obvious that he was Niu Tunshin. His mouth wasn't very big, but he had mastered an amazing martial art that could devour anything. It was precisely because he cultivated a very powerful devouring martial art that he called himself the sky-swallowing bull. As if he could even swallow the heavens. It's possible, Baron said coldly. Not only did they kill men who, but they also broke into this demonic beast cage. What is their purpose? If they killed the demonic beasts that we tamed with great difficulty, we will be in trouble. The heavenly netherworld Holy Lord will definitely punish us. Niu Tunshin shuddered. Even if he claimed to be able to swallow the heavens, he would only be roasted like beef in front of the heavenly underworld saint. I didn't expect that we would encounter such a thing as soon as we arrived. Ming Chen said in a low voice. What kind of force would dare to come here? They thought about it, but couldn't think of any force. Because there were many powerful forces, they had provoked many forces, so they really couldn't guess. No matter who it is, if they kill our demonic beasts, they will also die. Baron tightly clenched his fist and fiercely punched the door. A terrifying dragon power exploded from his fist and fiercely struck the door. Then with a loud bang, the whole door shook violently, but the door was still unbreakable. And they won't be able to escape from here. We've already set up an inescapable net. If they can even escape like this, then we really won't be able to survive here. Niu Tunshin was furious. His brother men who had been killed, and they only found out when they went to look for him. Very quickly, when they quickly investigated, they immediately discovered something strange. Unfortunately, it was too late. They had already hidden behind the door, and temporarily could not break it. Ming Chen and the others shrugged their shoulders. They could only help to break the door. Boom, boom, boom. Continuous bombardment came from outside, hitting the hard door again and again, knocking on their hearts. But they were still calm. If it were anyone else, they would probably be waiting for death. Apart from the door, there was no other exit, so other than waiting for death, they really didn't know what to do. People inside, listen to me. I advise you to obediently surrender. Don't touch those demonic beasts, or you will suffer a fate worse than death. Baron's voice came from outside. He was completely shouting. If we surrender, what will you do? Yi Tianyan shouted while capturing the last small group of demonic beasts. If you surrender, we will leave your bodies intact. Baron said coldly. Then those who agree are idiots. Yi Tianyan laughed loudly. Surrendering would leave their bodies intact. No one would agree to such a result. They had killed men who, so it was impossible for them to get out alive. When they broke in, it was tantamount to humiliating the heavenly netherworld divine kingdom. How could they let them go out? I advise you to obediently surrender. Brother Baron is just joking with you. As long as you obediently surrender and accompany us to the heavenly netherworld imperial capital, as for how you will be punished, it is not our business. Ming Chen's voice came from outside. He began to persuade them. Baron's own brother had died, so he would definitely be furious. How could he say anything nice to deceive him? Ming Chen was different. After comforting Qin Dragon a little, he began to persuade them. Idiot, do you think I am a 3-year-old child? Go wherever you want to go. Yi Tianyan was very unhappy with Ming Chen. He directly scolded him. What? How dare you call me an idiot? You trash. Do you think it is very safe to hide inside? When the door is broken, you will all die. Ming Chen was immediately angry. Who had ever scolded him in front of his face? They wanted to break the door as fast as possible. According to the current situation, they could at least hold on for a few days. The divine runes on the door could be broken, but it did not mean that it could be easily broken in a few hours. Saying that you are an idiot is light. I don't know how your mother gave birth to a retard like you. Hurry up and go back to drinking milk. Yi Tianyan scolded him again, angering Ming Chen. Good. You trash, just wait for me. Ming Chen flew into a rage. He smashed the door even harder than Baron and the others. Elder Luo and the others looked at each other. Why did Yi Tianyan scold them so fiercely? Soon, Yi Tianyan collected all the demonic beasts into his pet bar. Thousands of demonic beasts were caught, and a lot of experience points were obtained. Ding! Congratulations to player, Yi Tianyan. for successfully breaking through to Void Spirit Stage Level 8. This speed of breaking through was really unparalleled. After catching thousands of demonic beasts, each demonic beast could provide about 1 million experience points, directly obtaining more than 1 billion experience points, directly allowing him to level up. Ding! Congratulations to player E. Tianyan for completing the achievement Crazy Capturing Demon. Obtain the title Capturing Master. Capturing Master. Increase the success rate of capturing by 20%. Chapter 525. Not only did he level up, but he also got a title reward, which made E. Tianyan feel very comfortable. Sure enough, this trip was really profitable. Even if there were no treasures or elixirs, he was already very satisfied. He could get so many monsters and experience points. What could be more satisfying than this? He got a lot of experience points at once and leveled up. But when he saw that the next level required 1 billion experience points, he couldn't help but sigh. The higher the level, the more experience points he needed. If he didn't kill monsters above the Void Spirit stage, he wouldn't be able to get a lot of experience points. The experience of Core Transformation stage was nothing to him. It was even less than the experience he got from catching pets. Of course, the experience gained from catching pets wasn't very high. Most of the experience gained was more than 500,000 to 600,000. Some of the Void Spirit stage gave more experience. The important thing was that there were enough of them, so they could level up easily. However, it took a lot of time to catch all of them. If they were all killed, the time would definitely be reduced by half. Finally, all of them. E. Tianyan took a deep breath. This was really a physical work. But the physical work outside was even more amazing. They kept attacking the door from the beginning. Divine Messenger finally caught all the monsters? They looked around and saw that all the monsters in the cages had been caught. They could imagine what kind of mood they would have when they broke the door and saw that the place was empty. They would definitely be depressed to the point of vomiting blood. The most important thing was that they weren't here yet. Yes, we are ready to evacuate. There is no treasure house at all, only a bunch of monsters. E. Tianyan gestured for them to grab him and get ready to teleport out. It's okay, our main purpose is to hit the heavenly netherworld divine country hard. Now we have achieved our goal. And it's very good. Elder Luo and the others felt very satisfied. They would have vomited blood if they were in E. Tianyan's position. Their phoenixes were also among them, which made it even more worthwhile for them to come here. E. Tianyan nodded and quickly teleported them out of the cave without any hindrance. Even such a powerful divine rune was unable to stop the teleportation effect. The crazy system had already jumped out of this category, and this godly skill was even more so he could easily escape. The next moment, they appeared in the forest outside. It was quite safe. That's enough, said E. Tianyan. The three of them looked around. Although they were prepared, they were still deeply shocked by the scene in front of them. This speed was really too shocking. They easily escaped from inside. It's so abnormal. He can escape so easily. The walls of the Heaven Netherworld altar don't seem to be there at all. Elder Luo and the others sighed with envy. It was just that they were envious and couldn't cultivate with him. They felt that they had to have a spatial constitution to be able to use it. They didn't have this kind of talent, so they could only look at it. There was no way they could learn it. It was obvious that no matter how they were taught, they wouldn't be able to cultivate it. This was just their wishful thinking. How could ordinary teleportation have such an effect? At most, they could teleport a small distance. The key was that they couldn't break through the divine rune and teleport in at will. That's right. They're going to vomit blood this time. They've worked so hard to break this wall. Who knew that none of us would be inside? They'll definitely go crazy, right? Elder Lei and the others couldn't stop laughing. They were very happy, thinking of what the evil spirit race had done to them. This was considered a light punishment. If it wasn't for the situation, they really wanted to kill their way out. It's almost time. You can go back and explain the situation to the Patriarch. Also, take these two phoenixes back to heal and detoxify them. E. Tianyan summoned the phoenixes. Although they were very good, he still chose to give them up. The phoenixes must be taken back. He couldn't just let him take them away, right? You. Elder Luo looked at Etianyan. He already knew what Etianyan wanted to do. Yes, as I said before, the plan hasn't changed. I'm going in. Etianyan looked at them and said, You go first, I will go back soon. The three elders looked at each other and finally nodded. They knew how strong Etianyan was during this trip. With such a powerful teleportation, they no longer had to worry. Okay, let's go back and tell the patriarch about the situation here. You must be careful. Even if you have a move like teleportation, you still have to be careful. No move will always be effective. If you are trapped inside, it will not be worth it. Elder Luo said. They were all very worried about Etianyan. After all, he had helped them so much. In their hearts, they had already regarded Etianyan as a companion. How could they let him die at will? It's okay, I will go back soon. Etianyan smiled and motioned for them to leave quickly. After saying goodbye, they quickly left and did not stay here for long. It was impossible for them to follow him in. It was hard to say when fighting. They could die in a split second. Etianyan's teleportation was magical. They all knew that it couldn't be used often. More importantly, they couldn't easily support him unless they stayed by his side and killed him. However, they felt that it would be better for Etianyan to act alone. In this way, they would not be a burden. After they left, Etianyan did not go in immediately. His teleportation was still on cooldown. He could only stay here for an hour and then teleport in. In the blink of an eye, an hour had passed. His figure flashed and disappeared. In the blink of an eye, he entered the interior. Now it was a mess inside. Most of the cultivators were surrounding the beast cage. Etianyan glanced over there and hid his figure. No one noticed him at all. Most of the guards were attracted, so he could easily sneak in this time. It's roughly this way. Etianyan did not stop and went directly to the treasure area in the depths of the Heaven Underworld altar. He followed the directions of the Underworld treasure map. He wanted to see what the treasure would be. He hoped that it would be more precious than the Coiling Dragon treasure map and obtain better treasures. It would at least be a divine artifact or above. If it was only a divine artifact, it would be too unfair for him to return. Since most of the guards were gone, it was very easy for him to sneak in this time. Soon he arrived at the treasure location according to the map. Chapter 526. Boom, boom, boom. Baron and the others kept bombarding the door, and with their attacks, the door began to loosen. This made them happy, and Mingchen said in surprise, Hurry up and attack. They can't hold the door anymore. We will be able to get in soon. Originally, they thought that it would take a long time to break through the door, but now it seemed that the door was loosening. The outside of the door looked terrible, and the stone pillar that was holding the door was about to collapse. The inside of the door was supported by the stone pillar, and with Elder Luo and the others holding the door tightly, it didn't break through immediately. Now that they were gone, there was no one to hold the door, and it was obvious that the stone pillar was not strong enough to hold the door. Although the door was able to withstand a lot of the power, some of the power still passed through and shattered the stone pillar. Unless the stone pillar was enchanted with divine runes, it would be able to hold on for a little longer. The stone pillar was just an ordinary profound golden stone, and its hardness was definitely not weak, but with so many Spirit King stage experts attacking it crazily, it was bound to be difficult for it to withstand. Finally, after a while, under Baron's fierce attack, the stone pillar shattered and turned into a pile of rubble that fell to the ground. Boom! In the next moment, the door was violently smashed open, and Baron and the others led the way in. Their eyes were filled with killing intent as they stared at the surroundings. When they looked around, they found nothing. There were only piles of cages and the corpses of some patrolmen. Where are they? They glanced around and found no trace of aura. Even if they were strong enough to hide themselves, with so many Spirit King stage experts, they wouldn't be able to hide. Now they looked around again and again, but they didn't see anything. All they could see was emptiness. What happened? Did they all disappear? They were shocked. Baron's body emitted a dragon roar, and he released a dragon shadow. He rushed forward with a giant sword in his hand and slashed at the cage in front of him. In an instant, most of the cage was cut in half. The remaining sword Qi slashed at the wall, but it didn't have any effect at all. Where are they? Where are they? He roared furiously as he swung the supreme quality saint artifact in his hand wildly. Countless streaks of light wreaked havoc in the surroundings, but no matter how he swung, he was unable to force the person out. At most, the cage was cut into a few pieces, and a few marks were left on the walls. Apart from that, there was nothing else. Mingchen and the others were even angrier. They had been smashing the door for so long, but there was no one inside. They opened their telegnosis ability to the fullest and searched every inch of the place. In the end, they might have found a few ants, but they couldn't find any human figures. It's gone. It's really gone. Baron retracted his attack, his eyes blazing with anger. He had wanted to kill his way in and ruthlessly punish these invaders, but who would have thought that after he entered, there would not even be a shadow of a person to be seen. All that was left were piles of broken cages, and not even a single demonic beast could be seen. This was too shocking. They really couldn't figure out where they had escaped from. Is there a secret passage here? That's impossible. There's definitely no secret passage here. Most of the secret passages have already been found by us. Mingchen glanced around coldly and stared at the surrounding walls, trying to see if there were any secret passages. Search. Baron didn't waste time talking nonsense. He quickly stuck to the wall and searched for a secret passage. Niu Tunshin and the others also began to search. Void Spirit stage powerhouses were also arranged to look for secret passages. Whether it was the wall, the ceiling, or the ground, they were constantly searching for secret passages. Although they had already searched this place, they knew most of the secret passages in the Heaven Underworld altar. They had also searched this place, but there was no secret passage. Now that the humans and demonic beasts had disappeared, they could only suspect that they hadn't searched carefully, or that the method they used was wrong. They must know about the secret passages, otherwise how could they disappear? It's impossible for them to kill men who so quietly. Baron said angrily. Damn it. How could they know about the secret passages? How could they know about the secret passages that we don't know about? Their hearts were filled with rage, but they were also filled with panic. Could it be that there were many places in the Heaven Underworld altar that they didn't know about? They absolutely didn't think that they could teleport out. With so many divine runes here, teleportation was just a fart. It was impossible to easily pass through. Thus, no matter how they thought about it, the most they could think of was to teleport to the secret passage, not to these people. No matter what, they could only brace themselves and search to see if there were any secret passages nearby. If they couldn't find the secret passages, the punishment they would receive would be absolutely terrible. If they could catch the intruders, then everything could be discussed. Now that the demonic beasts and the intruders were gone, their punishment would be severe. When they were about to continue searching, the entire Heaven Underworld altar suddenly shook. The surrounding walls glowed with a faint golden light, as if something had been activated. What's going on? Who started climbing the divine stairs? Baron and the others raised their heads in shock. Their faces immediately became gloomy. Could it be the intruders? Damn it! Hurry up and go take a look. Mingchen roared. It seemed that this had disrupted their plan. Then they quickly turned around and ran outside. Before leaving, Baron said to his subordinates, "You guys watch this side. If there is any movement, immediately run over and report it. No matter what, you have to stop them. If they escape, you are dead." Yes. Their hearts trembled, but they could only agree like this. After giving their orders, they quickly rushed forward. After passing through a few passages, they finally passed through a passage. What came into view was a flight of stairs. Looking at it, there were at least 1,000 steps. Of course, this was not the main point. The main point was that someone was climbing up. He had already reached more than 100 steps, and his entire body was covered in a layer of light. When they saw this figure, they immediately shouted angrily, "Intruders!" The person climbing the stairs was, of course, not just anyone. It was Yi Tianyan. When he first came in, He thought that there would be some kind of treasure. He didn't expect that there would be 999 steps to heaven. He climbed all the way up, but he didn't know where it led. He didn't think too much about it, and immediately climbed up. Unexpectedly, as soon as he stepped on it, it immediately caused a tremor. It was as if something had been triggered, causing the entire heaven underworld altar to move. The divine runes on the side kept flashing, looking like a miracle. Chapter 527. You really are an intruder. Get down here. Baron roared, the holy sword in his hand aimed at Etienne, and fiercely stabbed towards Etienne. An aurora pierced out from the tip of the sword and turned into a terrifying sharp blade, fiercely stabbing towards Etienne. His battle prowess directly soared to 500 million. Etienne turned around, and was about to block the attack when suddenly a divine light enveloped him. When the attack hit him, it suddenly bounced back and its power increased by a bit. In the next moment, it turned into an even stronger sword light and counterattacked Baron. Baron's eyes surged with a dragon phantom, and in an instant thick dragon scales appeared on his body. He firmly grasped the holy sword and fiercely slashed down at the incoming sword light. His strength once again soared by a large margin. Break for me! Baron roared and smashed the sword light, but he was still forced to retreat a few steps. The power of the attack that was bounced back was increased by a bit. He almost lost face. Baron, have you forgotten that you can't attack at will in this god ladder? Ming Chen sternly said. Calm down, although I don't know how this guy sneaked in. We will make him pay the price. Men whose death will not be in vain. Baron was completely blinded by anger, so as soon as he rushed over, he immediately attacked. Who would have thought that he couldn't attack here at all? Once he attacked, the attack would be bounced back and the power would be even stronger. This played a protective role, so that the trial taker would not be disturbed in any way. There is also a protective role very good. When Etienne saw this scene, he suddenly felt happy in his heart. He thought that he would be attacked, but it seems like he was worried too much. God ladder. Heaven Ascension God ladder. A god ladder that can give people a trial. This was the information given by the appraisal eye, so he didn't know the details. He didn't expect that it would reflect the attack and protect the trial taker. You intruder, how the hell did you come here? Ming Chen looked at Etienne with cold eyes. He couldn't wait to kill him, but now he had no way to do so. Why should I tell you? Idiot. Etienne smiled. If he told him, he would be an idiot. Sure enough, the one who scolded me before was you. When Ming Chen heard this voice, he was furious, but he didn't lose his mind. He immediately attacked, as it was meaningless. The attack of a Spirit King stage cultivator was like a fart in front of him. This was a temple built by the Divine King, and Spirit King stage cultivators were nothing here. So what if I am? Hit me if you dare. Etienne mocked. You. Ming Chen's expression was one of anger. He immediately stepped onto the divine staircase and chased after Lin Fan. Just you wait. See if I don't teach you a lesson this time. Do you think you will be safe? When everything is over, I'll see how you die. Ming Chen, are we going to start early? At this time, Nangong Ming, who was behind Ming Chen, shouted. The sound of broken gongs and drums resounded. It was still very unpleasant to hear. What can we do if we don't start early? This kid has already started it. If we don't hurry up, this place is going to close. The next time will be 5 years later. Hurry up and come up. There won't be another chance if you're late. Ming Chen said coldly. This kid ruined our plan. Originally, I wanted to wait for other people to come, but now it seems that we have no choice but to go up first. Call all the cultivators above the core transformation stage to come here. Let them climb the divine ladder. Baron roared in anger. The subordinates behind him nodded and immediately turned around to call more people. They didn't dare to stay here any longer. After giving the order, Baron and the others climbed up one by one and chased after Etienne. In one breath, he directly chased up hundreds of stairs, and in the blink of an eye, he caught up with Etienne. However, they could only glare at Etienne fiercely. They couldn't do anything to him. Under the protection of the divine rune's energy, no one could interfere with each other. Sure enough, there are treasures up there. Originally, I wanted to go through the trial, but I opened it ahead of time. Not bad. Etienne's eyes lit up. Looking at their situation, he knew that there were treasures up there. Otherwise, they wouldn't have sped up to climb up. However, he also felt that this place was not simple. The higher he climbed, the more difficult it became. A heavy pressure dragged his feet, making it extremely difficult for him to climb up. Moreover, the higher he climbed, the heavier his legs felt, as if they were shackled to his feet. However, he found that the higher he climbed, the more beneficial it was for him, and that was the energy. Energy continuously poured into his body from the soles of his feet, and a rich spiritual power drilled into his body, strengthening his body. This was a special type of spiritual power that could strengthen one's physique. No wonder Baron let his subordinates quickly climb up. This was also beneficial to them. Before the end of the trial, they could enjoy the benefits of this place. In particular, this divine staircase was very wide. It was hundreds of meters long, enough to accommodate thousands of people at a time, so there was no need to worry about too many people. Heaven Ascending Divine Altar officially opened the trial. All cultivators above Saint King's stage are not allowed to participate. Violators will suffer the wrath of God. At this time, a heavy voice came from all directions, directly hitting their hearts. This voice didn't seem to come from their ears, but from their hearts. It was very strange. Then the surrounding divine runes were completely lit up. Suddenly they felt the pressure doubled. Their feet became heavier, but their spiritual power didn't increase at all. The first trial, one step to heaven and earth. One step to heaven and earth. Etienne was startled. He didn't know what this meant. While he was hesitating, Ming Chun had already left him behind and climbed up at a faster speed. When he saw Etienne didn't move, he sneered. Trash, why can't you climb up? The first one to climb up, even a core transformation stage cultivator, can climb faster than you. They can't help but ridicule Etienne for being so slow. They can only vent their anger by mocking him. Etienne didn't speak. He frowned and thought for a while, then continued to climb up step by step, step by step. His speed was not fast nor slow, each step firmly on the stairs. When the spiritual power was transmitted to him, he carefully felt it, as if there was something mysterious about it. When he carefully felt it, he immediately felt that the spiritual power that poured into him had a special power. If he didn't carefully feel it, he would really think that it was ordinary spiritual power that he could absorb at will. When he carefully felt it, he found that what was transmitted to him turned out to be a martial art. Every strand of spiritual energy contained information about martial arts, but the content was relatively small. Only by accumulating a little bit could one understand the content. Chapter 528. Trash, hurry up and come up. Why are you walking so slowly? Are you crippled? That's right. Stupid boy, hurry up and come up. If you don't have the ability, then get out of here. He must be stalling for time. He can't go up, but he doesn't dare to come down. The guards next to him glared at Etienne and wanted him to hurry up, but Etienne didn't slow down at all. Instead, he climbed up step by step, and every step he took was very steady. He turned a deaf ear to the voices around him, as if he couldn't hear anything at all. Is this kid stalling for time? Does he think that he can't go up, so he keeps walking slowly? Baron's face was cold. He wanted to wait for Etienne to come up and beat him up, but he didn't expect that Etienne wouldn't come up at all. They had already reached the 600th and 700th step, but Etienne was still at the 200th step. His speed was much slower than theirs. That's possible. He thinks that he is absolutely safe here. When we rush up and meet the 30 candidates, he will be kicked out. Ming Chen sneered and said. At that time, we will besiege him and let him die without a burial place. When more than 30 people climbed to the top, the divine ladder would stop working, and all the cultivators who didn't climb to the top would be kicked out. That's right. Let's put an end to his stupidity and ignorance. Baron sneered. They continued to climb up, but their speed was much slower than before. Even if they were at the Spirit King stage, it was still not easy to climb up here. The higher the cultivation, the greater the pressure. Etienne didn't care about what they thought, and he just climbed up little by little. But when he reached the end, his speed became a little faster, But every step he took was still steady, and his spiritual power kept flowing into his body. The content of the ladder was getting more and more, and he gradually felt that he had pieced together a martial art book. Of course, it was only the first 1 or 2 pages, and when the content was pieced together, he barely managed to piece together 1 or 2 pages. He felt like he still couldn't piece together a martial art book even after climbing to the 999th step. It would probably only be about 3 or 4 pages, not a lot. As he moved faster and faster, Baron and the others' faces sank when they saw him. They hoped that Tianyan wouldn't come up and would just stay below. That way, when they satisfied the conditions, Tianyan would be chased out. Don't worry. Even if he succeeds, we can still kill him later. Ming Chen sneered. His plan had not changed. It was just that there were other plans for different situations. But it looks like we should go first. We have about 50 people here. We're definitely faster than him. Niu Tunshan laughed. They were surrounded by about 50 people. Apart from them, there were many Void Spirit Stage and Core Transformation Stage cultivators who were much stronger than Tianyan. From the looks of it, it was hard to tell who would emerge victorious. It was highly likely that Tianyan would not be able to catch up no matter what. As it turned out, they were overthinking things. Tianyan only sped up a few steps before slowing down. Some of the stairs even stood there steadily for a short period of time, as if they were adapting to the pressure. It seems that I was overthinking. This kid's cultivation is very weak. I suspect that he is at the core transformation stage. Ming Chen said. It seems that he is even weaker than ordinary core transformation stage cultivators. But where are his companions? He can't be alone. Why is he here? Where are the others? Baron looked around, but he couldn't see anyone else. No matter what, we must catch him and force him to tell us all the secrets of the secret passage. Otherwise, how could he sneak in here so easily? Ming Chen's eyes were cold. He couldn't let the enemy know about the secret passage. Even if the enemy knew about it, they must know about it. They nodded and continued to climb up. No matter what happened to Tianyan, they must catch him alive and force him to tell them everything. They didn't know why Tianyan was alone, but they had to catch him first. The situation on Tianyan's side didn't change. He slowed down not because of the pressure, but because the pressure here meant nothing to him. If it was a competition of speed, he would definitely crush the other cultivators, but he didn't do that. He still needed to slowly understand the secret passage. Some of the stairs had a lot of martial arts information, so he deliberately slowed down his pace and carefully comprehended the profound mysteries within. He could feel that this was an extremely amazing martial art. It was at least a heaven-level martial art, and it was a very powerful heaven-level martial art. It was very likely to be a high-grade heaven-level martial art. This was not impossible. After all, this was a heaven-level martial art built by a god king. If it was not a high-grade heaven-level martial art, he would feel that it was not good. In short, he was not worried about the situation around him at all. No matter how fast the other party ran, it had nothing to do with him. As time passed, Ming Chen was the first to reach the top. After successfully reaching the top, he looked down at Tianyan and sneered. This kid is still climbing up slowly. He doesn't know what will happen to him. Ba Long and the others also quickly reached the top. The gap between them was not big, so they were able to reach the top quickly. As time passed, more than a dozen people had successfully reached the top. At this time, Tianyan had only reached 600 to 700 steps, and there were still nearly 300 steps to go. 2 more, hurry up and come up. Ming Chen casually looked at the people around him. There were still 2 more people left, and it would be enough for 30 people. The few core transformation stage cultivators who were struggling to climb up wiped the sweat on their foreheads and continued to climb up. This was extremely difficult for them as it could temper their physiques. However, the overall difficulty wasn't that great, so they could still climb up. Finally, under their efforts, 2 of them successfully climbed up the divine stairs. As soon as they climbed up, the whole divine stairs flickered and instantly covered the whole room. Haha, you are dead. Ming Chen laughed and looked down at the people below. All of you, block the entrance and catch this kid. In their opinion, Tianyan's cultivation was very weak, so they didn't need to go down to catch him. If his cultivation was very low, he would have climbed up a long time ago. Why would he need to climb up bit by bit? The next moment, after a flash of divine light, all the cultivators except for Tianyin were sent flying away, leaving only Tianyin on the spacious divine stairs. Chapter 529. After the divine ladder flashed, other than Tianyin, the rest of the cultivators were all sent flying. On the spacious divine ladder, Tianyin was the only one left, looking like a crane in a flock of chickens. At this time, Baron and the others were all stunned. They thought that Tianyin would definitely be sent flying. As long as there were 30 people on the ladder, the rest of the participants would be sent flying, which was equivalent to being eliminated. At this time, they could not continue to climb up, and could only obediently stay below and watch. What's going on? Nothing happened to him. Ming Chun and the others were dumbfounded. After coming to their senses, they looked at each other in dismay, feeling that this was really too strange. In the past, they had all come up, and as long as 30 people were satisfied, the rest would be sent flying. Therefore, no matter how many people participated in the trial, in the end, only 30 people could pass the first trial. Not to mention them, even Tianyin did not know what was going on. Seeing so many cultivators sent flying, he felt a little surprised. It seems that after reaching 30 people, this trial is equivalent to the end. I have no problem. Could it be that if I successfully comprehend the content of the trial, I will not be excluded? Tianyin thought about it carefully. It is very likely that this is the case. This place must be to select the inheritor or something. If even the cultivator who has the qualifications to be the inheritor is excluded, it is too unfair to just compare the speed. He thought that those who had a chance of successfully comprehending could continue to climb up. If they did not comprehend anything, they could still pass, but it was limited to 30 people. Strange, how can he be fine? Baron shouted. You all continue to climb up and try. Baron's subordinates quickly tried to climb up the divine ladder, but before they could even get close, they were blocked by a layer of light, unable to enter. Lord Baron, we can't pass at all. We are completely blocked. Those subordinates helplessly shook their heads. No matter how they tried, they could not pass. They were all blocked by a layer of light. Not only can the people below not come up, we also can't continue forward. Ming Chen turned his head to look behind him. There was a door behind them, and it was now tightly closed. It was obvious that they could not pass. It seemed that if Tianyin did not come up, this door would not open for a while. Are we going to wait for him to come up? Baron's expression was unsightly. He had thought that he would be able to see Tianyin's expression begging for mercy. But now, they had to wait for Tianyin to come up. Hurry up and come up, idiot! Ming Chen shouted from above. If you can't climb up, then get out of here. They kept shouting and mocking Tianyin, trying to chase him away. Tianyin looked at them leisurely and said, What's the rush? Just wait. We have plenty of time anyway. He climbed up bit by bit, not worried at all about the situation above. He still had to thoroughly understand the martial arts here, so he couldn't waste this opportunity. Either you don't do it, or you do it to the best of your abilities. They were about to explode from anger. They were already furious. And now they had to wait for Tianyin to come up slowly. This made them even more furious. Unfortunately, they couldn't attack. If they could attack, Tianyin would have already been blown to pieces by them. Following that, Tianyin turned a deaf ear to them, and continued to climb up step by step, comprehending the martial arts here bit by bit. The surrounding people could only watch from the side, unable to do anything. Finally, after several days of comprehension, Tianyin finally reached the peak. Just as he stepped onto the top of the divine ladder, a divine light surged from the surroundings and drilled into their bodies. Some challengers had it, some didn't. Roughly, more than half of the challengers had it. Among them, the light that enveloped Tianyin was the most dazzling, but it was only dazzling, and there wasn't much feeling. Tianyin also didn't feel the slightest bit strange. It was just a very ordinary light, and it didn't bring him any benefits. However, in his mind, there were about 3 more pages of martial arts, and he already had a general idea of what the content was. Divine Art of Universe. What was the name of the martial arts chapter? The content shown in these 3 pages was only the first level, and it was obvious that there were several more levels behind it. Although it was only the first level, he could already see what level of martial arts it was. High-grade heaven-level martial arts. This was not out of his expectations. It must be a high-grade heaven-level martial art, not an ordinary earth-level martial art, and definitely not a low-grade heaven-level martial art. Sorry to keep you waiting. Yi Tianyun grinned. He knew that he still couldn't attack here. As long as his body was enveloped by the light, no one could attack unless they wanted to die. Although I don't know what happened this time, consider yourself lucky. Ming Chen and the others stared at Yi Tianyun. Their eyes were filled with killing intent, and they couldn't wait to cut Yi Tianyun into pieces, but they couldn't do anything about it. I have always been this lucky. Yi Tianyun said with a faint smile. Where did you hide those demon beasts? Baron asked in a stern voice. Why should I tell you? If you have the ability, go find them yourself, don't ask me. Yi Tianyun laughed and lifted his foot to walk forward, but after a few steps he turned his head and said to them. By the way, who said that I couldn't climb up? It's a pity that I still came up, but with so many people staring at me, I felt a little embarrassed. Thank you for your attention. You have a glib tongue. It will only make your death more painful. Ming Chen's eyes were cold, and a trace of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes. They all knew what was going to happen next, so although they were angry, they were looking forward to seeing Yi Tianyun's painful expression. Is that so? I am looking forward to it. Yi Tianyun smiled and walked over. At this time, the closed door in front of him rumbled and began to slowly open, revealing a spacious road in front of him. They knew where it led, but Yi Tianyun didn't know, but with the protection of the divine light, he didn't have to worry about any danger. After they entered, the door closed with a loud bang, isolating the other cultivators outside. They wanted to know what was going on inside, but it seemed impossible, so they could only look at each other outside, not knowing what was going on. Where is everyone? At this time, 2 Spirit King stage experts rushed in from outside, and found that there was no one on the divine ladder. Sir, they have already gone up. One of the guards said awkwardly. What happened? They didn't wait for us? The Spirit King stage experts and Void Spirit stage experts were completely stunned, and they didn't know what was going on. They had worked so hard to get here. And now the trial had begun? No, it's an invader, and the trial has begun ahead of time. An invader. Chapter 530. As soon as Yi Tianyun and his group stepped into the passage, the door immediately closed. In front of them was a spacious passage that led to nowhere. However, Ming Chen and his group quickened their pace and quickly moved forward, wanting to leave Yi Tianyun behind. However, no matter how fast they were, Yi Tianyun's speed was just as fast. He closely followed them, and did not allow them to leave even the slightest gap. In the end, Ming Chen and his group found that not only did they not leave Yi Tianyun behind, but they had also left their own people far behind. This kid has some skill. Ming Chen and his group were shocked. They did not expect Yi Tianyun's speed to be so amazing. It seemed that the inside of the trial was not as simple as it looked. Soon they passed through the passage and entered an empty area. Then they saw another set of stairs. However, this time, there didn't seem to be that many stairs. Furthermore, each flight of stairs was quite high, like a mountain that was more than 100 feet tall. There were not many steps in front of them, only 10 steps. However, each step was dozens of feet high. That meant that the steps were over 100 feet high. It was truly shocking. Welcome to the second trial, one step to the heavens. The deep voice once again gushed out from their hearts, causing their hearts to tremble. However, Ming Chen and his group were not surprised at all. Obviously, they had been here before, so they were not surprised at all. This is the last trial, let's climb up and finish him. Ming Chen and his group nodded to each other, and immediately rushed up, and began to climb the towering stairs. Compared to walking before, this time they were climbing the towering stairs. There were countless pits on the stairs, through which they could climb up. If they could fly here, they would have directly flown up instead of slowly climbing up, which was too slow. However, for them, this was also a kind of trial that could temper themselves. One step to the heavens, interesting. Tianyan rushed up and grabbed the stairs to climb up. When his hands touched the stairs, immediately a stream of energy flowed into his hands. But this time, it was not like before, where spiritual power constantly flowed into his body, but through his palms, it wanted to extract spiritual power from his body, from the previous giving to the current demanding. However, if he wanted to let go, he could easily do so. He wouldn't be stuck there and have his spiritual power sucked out until he died. Just letting go meant that he would fall, and then he would have to start all over again. Of course, Tianyan wasn't worried about this. He just wanted to feel if there was any martial arts information in it. As he slowly climbed up, he quickly discovered that there was no information being transmitted. It was simply extracting the spiritual power in his body. Other than that, there was nothing else. Seems like there's no effect. Tianyan thought that he would be able to absorb some kind of martial arts, but it seemed like there wasn't any this time. It was just a simple climb. Boy, if you have the ability to catch up with us this time, catch up with us like before. Mingchen couldn't help but shout at Tianyan, indicating that he could catch up with them easily. He had nowhere to vent his anger, so he could only vent it through cursing. Grandson, your proposal is not bad. Tianyan smiled brightly. While Mingchen was stunned, he rushed forward like a fierce dragon, climbing forward crazily. In an instant, he surpassed many cultivators who had climbed up earlier than him and chased after Mingchen. Who are you calling a grandson? Mingchen scolded angrily, but he didn't slow down and continued to climb up. But overall, Tianyan's speed is better. As if he's flying, he quickly runs up the mountain. As soon as Mingchen reached the first step, Tianyan quickly followed him and landed on the first step together with him. As soon as he stood firm, Tianyan immediately felt a surge of energy from the soles of his feet and began to strengthen his physique and cultivation. Ding, you got 5 million experience points. When he successfully climbed up, a surge of energy directly provided him with 5 million experience points, which was quite a considerable amount. At the same time, he felt his body strengthen a little, but only a little. His physique was already strong enough, so there was no way to strengthen it greatly. According to this situation, it was no wonder that Baron and the others also came here. This was a small improvement for them, and it was better than staying in the cultivation room. In addition, the most important thing was that the chapters of martial arts continued to pour in, and began to piece together the remaining content for him. It seems that I have to successfully climb up a step to continue to get this reward. Tianyun's eyes lit up. He was thinking about whether to directly teleport to the highest step. Now it seemed that it was not necessary. He had to climb up one step at a time to get this reward. If he teleported, he could ignore all the rules and directly reach the top, which was simply a heaven-defying act. Of course, he would not do this. Everything was for the reward, so he could only climb up honestly. This was the same as when he climbed the Nether Gate before. If it were not for experience points, he would have directly teleported to the top. Ming Chen and the others were also feeling the spiritual power inside. Their original purpose was to come here for the trial, but who knew that Tianyan would open it in advance? How could they not be angry? Continue. After Tianyan finished absorbing the spiritual power, he quickly climbed up. At this time, Ming Chen had just finished absorbing the spiritual power, so he quickly followed. Grandson, aren't you a bit too slow? Tianyan laughed and continued to climb up. His speed was quite amazing. Even if Ming Chen ran with all his might, he was still a bit slower than him. Even Baron and the others could not keep up quickly. They all desperately climbed up, using all their strength, but still could not catch up with Tianyan. Why is his speed so fast? Is he not affected by the situation here? Ming Chen and the others' faces were livid. They originally thought that they could catch up, but in the end, they found that the distance between them was getting bigger and bigger. Could it be that this kid is hiding his strength? They were shocked. If he was hiding his strength, then how strong was his real strength? However, climbing up could not show his full strength, but they could see some clues. Tianyan did not pay attention to their suspicions. He quickly climbed up in order to quickly get the reward, unlike before, when he slowly climbed up one step at a time. This place was very difficult for others. The biggest difficulty was that the higher they climbed, the stronger the suction force. Climbing like this, it was like their hands were covered with mucus, and it took a lot of effort to climb up. Chapter 531. With his astonishing speed, Tianyun left them in the dust and easily left them in the dust. He advanced triumphantly and killed his way to the second floor. Just as he reached the second floor, an even more astonishing amount of experience immediately surged up, as if it was a fierce attack. Obtained 10 million experience points. After advancing a level, he suddenly obtained 10 million experience points. Moreover, the martial arts chapter was still continuously surging up, filling up the content in this area. 10 million experience points. It seems like I can continue to stack them up. Tianyun's eyes lit up. If he continued like this and continued to accumulate, he would definitely obtain a lot of experience points. Just the experience he obtained from climbing was already more than 100 million points. He was still very satisfied with this. Perhaps it would be a long time before he leveled up, but it was better than nothing. After comprehending the contents of the martial arts chapter, he continued to climb up quickly, his speed not decreasing in the slightest. When they had just climbed to the second floor, Tianyun was already about to climb to the third floor. Obtained 20 million experience points. His experience had doubled in an instant. He knew what was going on. The difficulty had increased by a large margin. Even his suction force had to increase by several levels before he could barely keep up. Thus, it was not surprising that he had obtained so much experience points. Looking at it this way, it was really like ascending to the heavens with each step. The benefits he obtained every time were astonishing. No wonder they were so enthusiastic about participating in the trial. Their absorption speed was comparatively slower. They had to first absorb all the spiritual energy that surged in before they could continue to rush forward. If they started to climb without absorbing all the spiritual energy, then the spiritual energy might leak out. At that time, they would have wasted it for nothing. Leaking out was a good thing. If they continued to compress it in their bodies and continued to climb up, then it was very likely that their meridians would explode or their bodies would explode. How is this brat still so fast? Even the suction force has no effect on him? They are getting more and more shocked. Tianyun is like a monkey, very flexible climbing up, and he can maintain the same speed as before. How can they not be shocked? It's possible. I don't know what trick he has, otherwise it would be impossible for him to be so fast. Baron's expression was ugly. The person who killed his brother was jumping in front of him. How could he feel good in his heart? If that's the case, then it's very likely that he'll be the first to reach the summit. Nangongming said solemnly. It's best if we quickly reach the top. When that time comes, it will be the time of his death. Baron's mouth cracked open, revealing his white teeth. He looked extremely malevolent, as if he wanted to tear them apart. That's right, reaching the summit will be the day of his death. Ming Chen's eyes turned cold, and he didn't want to continue the trial anymore. Instead, he wanted Tianyun to reach the top as soon as possible. After reaching the top, the meaning would be completely different. Tianyun didn't know what was going on, and continued to climb. He maintained the same speed, climbing up layer by layer. His experience kept increasing. On the fourth floor he had gained 30 million experience points. It was shocking. Then the fifth floor, the sixth floor. As he continued to climb like this, he soon felt that the suction force was not enough. The suction force of the stairs had already surpassed his suction force, and began to suck his spiritual power inside. However, this wasn't too much of a problem for him. Under the powerful suction force, most of it was offset. A small portion of the suction force was only equivalent to 1 or 2 layers, so the speed was still not bad. The 9th level, successfully received 90 million experience points. Following him, he continued to climb the last floor. As long as he reached the last floor, he would successfully reach the top. Looking back, they had just reached the 6th floor, which was a full 3 levels away from the top. A bunch of bastards, Your grandpa is ready to reach the top. Why are you still so slow? Tianyin sneered at them. It was as if he had given them a slap in the face. Ming Chen and the others were furious, but they couldn't do anything about it. Ming Chen's words were like slapping himself in the face. This bastard, when he reaches the top, we must cut him into pieces. They were angry and could only continue to climb up. But no matter how fast they accelerated, it seemed that it was impossible for them to catch up with Tianyin. They could climb to the top, but it would take a little more time. Even if they were at the Spirit King stage, they would still be under a lot of pressure. I'm ready to reach the top. I wonder what kind of trial will be next. Tianyin's eyes flashed, but for him, it was not a problem. As long as he could get more experience points, he didn't mind going through a few more trials. He is about to reach the top. Although he hoped that Tianyin could reach the top as soon as possible, he still felt a little humiliated when he was about to rush to the top. He didn't expect that he would be defeated by an invader. Finally, in front of everyone, Tianyin successfully reached the top. Just as he stepped on the top, a pleasant voice sounded in his ears. Ding! Successfully received 100 million experience points. The explosive experience points hit him hard, and the martial arts chapter in his mind suddenly increased from 3 pages to 5 pages. However, he could feel that the content was not complete. After all, he had just reached the first 2 levels, so he could tell that the content was not complete. But the outermost part of the book had been marked. There were a total of 3 levels in the divine art of universe. He had only obtained the first 2 levels, so there was still 1 more level to go. When he climbed to the top, he found that he was standing on the top of the heaven underworld altar. He could see the clouds and the top of the altar was spacious. The surroundings were covered with divine runes, and when they gathered together, it would form a huge array. It looked very exquisite, and it was completely at the level of the creator of the divine runes. Even the appraisal I couldn't analyze it, which was enough to show how difficult it was. At this time, a divine light fell from the sky and fell on his body, and the entire altar shook. The people who were climbing below were suddenly teleported to the top. They didn't need to climb anymore, and they had already successfully reached the top. The key point was that they were all confused, and they had no idea what was going on. They knew that once they climbed up, it would be the end, but they had never been teleported to the top before. Because of the shaking, many cultivators ran out of the heaven underworld altar, and when they saw that they were all at the top, they all flew up. But they could only fly on the side and they couldn't get close. Chapter 532. The number of people didn't change, and the situation didn't seem to have changed either. Many cultivators were happy to see them. It seemed that Tianyin was going to die. As long as he successfully reached the top, he would be able to get rid of his invincible state and return to the most ordinary state. Is that the invader? There is only one invader? Is this guy a fool? A Spirit King stage cultivator flew up and looked at Tianyin with a mocking look. They were all cultivators who came here from the imperial capital to prepare for the trial, but who knew that they would encounter such a situation. It was really a pity that they couldn't even make it in time. The key was that there were many cultivators with amazing potential. Under normal circumstances, the 30 spots were reserved for the cultivators with the highest potential, not the Spirit King stage cultivators. Void Spirit stage cultivators and above could get very few benefits, so they paid more attention to the cultivation of core transformation stage cultivators. Some Spirit King stage cultivators came here whenever they wanted, but most of them just brought their disciples to the trial. Ming Chen and the others were here to bring their disciples to participate in the trial, but they didn't expect that such a problem would occur. All of them looked at Tianyin, thinking that he will definitely die. Although this matter is very big, at least they managed to catch an intruder and interrogate him about the dark path. The overall result is still acceptable. What they were afraid of the most was that the invader would run away without knowing anything. The anger of the Holy Lord was not something they could bear. After all, this was not a matter of loss, but a matter of face. Such a huge divine kingdom was visited by the invaders just like that, and nothing happened to it at all. How could they still maintain their dignity? The cultivators who were watching from the outside thought that the result was within their control, but Ming Chen and the others were confused. Under normal circumstances, when Yi Tianyan came up, the invincible barrier would completely disappear. There was no such thing as first or last here. Without the barrier, Yi Tianyan could attack him at will. But now, after he climbed up, he was able to teleport all of them up. The most important thing was that the invincible barrier did not disappear, and the invincible barrier was still around them. This situation surprised them greatly, as they had never seen such a situation before. The inheritance conditions have been met, and you will officially enter the third trial. The inheritor must force all the opponents out of the heaven altar to win. As soon as he said that, a ray of light enveloped Yi Tianyan, making him look extremely dazzling. The others were dim and dull, but there was still a layer of protection around him. Inheritor. Yi Tianyan was stunned. He had become an inheritor just like that. He was stunned. The others were even more dumbstruck. How could an inheritor appear? All this while, there had never been any inheritors, except for Yi Tianyan. What's going on? Where did an inheritor come from? He became an inheritor? How is that possible? Their faces were gloomy as they climbed up one by one. How did Yi Tianyan become an inheritor? Could it be that one could become an inheritor just by reaching the top? They felt that this was even more impossible. It wasn't like they hadn't reached the top before. How did things turn out like this? It didn't matter who the inheritor was. Then another low voice sounded. The opponent will be decided by the inheritor. It will be a one-on-one duel until everyone is expelled from the heaven altar, except for those who surrender voluntarily. This choice is given to Yi Tianyan. He is free to choose his opponent, but he must expel everyone from the trial to complete the third trial. This was undoubtedly equivalent to 1 against 30 people. Wasn't the difficulty a little too high? Ming Chen and the other Spirit King stage cultivators were the strongest among them. This meant that Yi Tianyan had to deal with 4 Spirit King stage experts, which meant that it was not easy for him to deal with them. Since you have become an inheritor, then you can choose to deal with me. Baron stood up and looked at Yi Tianyan coldly. Yes, inheritor, come and deal with me. If you don't kick us out, you won't be able to pass the trial. Ming Chen and the other Spirit King stage cultivators were jealous of Yi Tianyan. Although they didn't know how Yi Tianyan did it, they knew that as long as Yi Tianyan didn't kick them out, they wouldn't be able to become an inheritor. This made them ridicule Yi Tianyan for being able to become an inheritor only after dealing with them. This was going to be fun. How could they deal with so many Spirit King stage cultivators? Don't worry, I will deal with them one by one. I will start with you. Yi Tianyan pointed his finger at one of the core transformation stage cultivators. Immediately, a divine light shone on the core transformation stage cultivator's body, and the invincible barrier on the core transformation stage cultivator's body disappeared. At the same time, the invincible barrier on Yi Tianyan's body also disappeared. In the next moment, Yi Tianyan's figure flashed, and in the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the core transformation stage cultivator and kicked him. Boom! The core transformation stage powerhouse didn't even have time to react before he was kicked out of the heavenly altar and fell straight down from the sky. However, Yi Tianyan didn't need to worry about the pain of falling down, because the system's notification sounded in his ears. Ding! Successfully killed core transformation stage cultivator. Reward for 170,000 EXP, for 1,700 crazy point, 200 SPS. Obtained martial art. The system's notification meant that the core transformation stage cultivator was already dead, and Yi Tianyan wouldn't show any mercy. As long as it was someone from the heavenly netherworld divine nation, Yi Tianyan wouldn't show any mercy. Yi Tianyan didn't even need to fall from the sky to kill the core transformation stage cultivator. Successfully drove away a trial taker. Please select another trial taker. The system's low voice sounded from the sky again. In the blink of an eye, a core transformation stage cultivator was killed, and the surrounding people were dumbfounded. They didn't understand what happened, and they were already sent flying out of the heaven altar. Obviously, the cultivation of this core transformation stage cultivator wasn't that simple. All of you get out of here. Ming-Chen roared and signaled them to run away quickly. Those who had come here to participate in the trial were all very talented, and some of them were his disciples. How could he not let them go first? I choose you. Yi Tianyun pointed at one of the core transformation stage cultivators, and the core transformation stage cultivator's energy shield disappeared, and Yi Tianyun immediately chased after him. Master, save me. The core transformation stage cultivator screamed as if his soul was about to leave his body. He immediately ran away, but his speed was no match for Yi Tianyun's. Kid, stop it. Ming-Chen was furious, and he immediately attacked Yi Tianyun with his netherworld divine palm. The familiar martial art appeared in front of him again, proving that he was the one who controlled the netherworld emperor. Bang! Ming-Chen's attack didn't explode, but it was crushed by the energy shield that wrapped around his body, and then a terrifying force raged inside his energy shield. Chapter 533. Ming-Chen was anxious and quickly attacked with his palm, but in the end he injured himself severely, especially when his palm exploded at such a close distance. The explosion nearly caused him to vomit blood. To be injured by his own attack, this was truly vexing. Yi Tianyun ignored him, and in a blink of an eye he appeared in front of Ming-Chen's disciple and kicked him away. Ah! The core transformation stage cultivator screamed in pain, and fell straight to the ground without making any sound. The surrounding cultivators quickly rushed over. This was Ming-Chen's beloved disciple, so they had to save him. However, when they caught him, they found that Ming-Chen's beloved disciple was already dead. His 7 apertures were bleeding, and he couldn't be more dead. How could Yi Tianyun let Ming-Chen's disciple live? Ming-Chen deserved to die 10,000 times for what he had done. Then his disciple would definitely not be any better. They were all the same. Birds of a feather flock together. No! Ming-Chen shouted, but it was too late. His disciple was already dead. He looked at Yi Tianyun coldly and said, I want you to die. You. Yi Tianyun ignored Ming-Chen, and continued to point at another cultivator, who was about to run to the edge and jump down. Yi Tianyun quickly rushed over, and kicked the cultivator, who was the focus of the heavenly netherworld divine nation's cultivation. Core transformation stage cultivators like them were all geniuses, and they were very likely to become Spirit King stage cultivators in the future, or even Void Spirit stage cultivators. Now one by one, they were killed by Yi Tianyun. Their speed was much slower than Yi Tianyun. In the blink of an eye, Yi Tianyun caught up with them, and they couldn't escape. Yi Tianyun kicked them one by one, and none of them survived. More than 20 core transformation stage cultivators were easily kicked away by Yi Tianyun. Those who didn't escape immediately were all Void Spirit stage cultivators. They looked at Yi Tianyun coldly, and didn't intend to escape immediately. For them, they were confident that they could deal with Yi Tianyun. Bastard! Pick me to fight with you if you have the guts. Ming-Chen roared. His disciple's death made him very distressed. He had spent a lot of resources to train his disciple, but now he was killed so easily. His heart must be bleeding. Don't worry, I'll take care of them one by one. Aren't you guys going to run? Yi Tianyun looked at the Void Spirit stage experts, who were looking at him coldly, filled with killing intent. All of them had invincible barriers on their bodies, but in the end, they were only protecting themselves. He already knew this, so he ignored Ming-Chen's attack. Who would have thought that Ming-Chen would lose his mind and crazily attack them? Who would have thought that his attack would be blocked by the protective shield? His companion Nangong Ming wanted to stop him, but it was too late. Run. One of the Void Spirit stage experts took out a middle-grade Saint Tool giant axe and said coldly, Why are we running away? Do you have the guts to fight me? Alright, it's you then. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold and his figure flickered. In the next moment, a shadow flashed in front of him and punched him fiercely. Bang! The Void Spirit stage expert was knocked to the ground by Yi Tianyun's punch. All of his teeth were broken, and even his face was crooked. Then, Yi Tianyun's heavy foot stepped on his chest, making him unable to get up. Aren't you very arrogant? Why don't you get up and fight with me? Yi Tianyun looked at him coldly, and stepped on the Void Spirit stage expert's chest. In a split second, a Void Spirit stage cultivator was defeated, causing everyone to suck in a mouthful of cold air. They all thought that Etienne's cultivation was at the void spirit stage, so it was not difficult for him to kill a core transformation stage expert. But now they were wrong. Even a void spirit stage expert was knocked down by Etienne's punch. Obviously, Etienne was merciful, otherwise, the opponent would have been beaten to death. Yu, the void spirit stage expert, was also shocked. He didn't see Etienne's punch clearly. He was knocked down by Etienne's punch. Even now he didn't know what happened. He was still in a trance. Etienne's punch almost blew his head off. How could his condition be any better? Okay, you can get out of here. Etienne kicked the cultivator away. The force of the kick was quite amazing, like a rubber ball. The cultivator was kicked away fiercely. Again, there was no exception. When the void spirit stage expert's companions caught him, they found out that he was already dead. Even with the help of elixir, there was no way to save him. Ding. Successfully killed void spirit expert. Reward, 18,000. 000 EXP, 13,000. 000 CPS, 600 SPs. Reward, God Pushing Palm Fire Lightning Palm. Reward, Recovery Pill 5 times EXP card, Fish Scale Divine Armor, Mid-Grade Sacred Tool. Fish Scale Boots, Mid-Grade Sacred Tool. A lot of things dropped. Whether it was EXP or Crazy Point, there was a qualitative leap. This is the reward of killing a void spirit stage expert. It's much better than killing a core transformation stage expert. Everyone was terrified. They didn't expect a void spirit stage expert to be killed in a second. Retreat! Baron and the others shouted, signaling the void spirit stage experts to retreat. Originally, they thought that a void spirit stage expert could suppress Etienne, but now it seems that they were too naive. More importantly, they wanted to earn some merit, so they didn't want to leave. But now they are being chased by the void spirit stage experts. Since this is a trial, just stay here and finish it. What's the hurry to leave? Since you're here, don't leave. Etienne's mouth curved into an evil smile. He disappeared in place. The next moment, he pounced on a void spirit stage expert, holding a holy sword in his hand. It's the Netherworld Divine Sword. Etienne slashed the escaping void spirit stage expert. The void spirit stage expert quickly pulled out his weapon to block, but it was useless. Under the attack of Etienne's sword, the void was quickly split in half. A deep crack appeared on the entire space. Even the void spirit stage expert was easily cut in half. Not only the void spirit stage expert in front of him was cut in half, but the other void spirit stage experts were also affected by the terrifying attack. Those who were a little further away were still able to resist the attack, but those who were closer were directly cut in half, leaving only a smear of blood behind. Ding! Successfully killed void spirit stage expert. Reward, 16 million EXP. Ding! Successfully killed void spirit stage expert. Reward, 16 million EXP. Chapter 534. Suddenly, Etienne appeared and rushed towards the rest of the void spirit stage experts, scaring them out of their wits. Originally, one of them was scary enough, but now there were 4 of them. How could they not be scared out of their wits? They immediately ran away. But how could they be faster than Etienne? Now his cultivation had broken through to the 8th layer void spirit stage. As long as the opponent's cultivation was within the void spirit stage, he would be able to suppress them with his absolute strength. Especially with the Netherworld Divine Sword in his hand. The domineering power he exuded was terrifying. In the blink of an eye, they were easily killed by Etienne. All of them died in Etienne's hands, and a large wave of EXP flowed into Etienne's body. The corpses fell from the sky one after another, leaving behind the bloodstains that dyed the area red. It was a shocking scene. So many void spirit stage experts were killed as easily as chickens being slaughtered. It was extremely easy for him. God, is he still human? Didn't they say he was weak? How can he be so strong? For invaders, which one is the real one? I heard that only 2 avatars can be summoned at most, but he can summon 4 avatars? What the hell? This is too scary. Who is this invader? Many cultivators who were watching the battle were dumbfounded, and their hearts were trembling. Fortunately, they were not on top of the sky, otherwise they would have ended up in the same situation. Killing them was not difficult at all. It was like slaughtering a chicken or a dog. Ming Chen and the others' faces were gloomy as they watched their subordinates being killed by Yi Tianyan. In the end, they failed to escape and were easily killed by Yi Tianyan. Everything was so clean and neat, and the domineering power made them evaluate Yi Tianyan's strength. Obviously, they had underestimated Yi Tianyun's strength. It was very likely that he had already reached the Spirit King stage. It's done, now there are only 4 of you left. Yi Tianyun clapped his hands and looked at the remaining 4 Spirit King stage experts. From the lowest cultivation to the highest, it would start from Niu Tunshan, followed by Nangong Ming, then Ba Long, and finally Ming Chen. It wouldn't be easy to deal with 4 Spirit King stage cultivators. Fortunately, the rules here were beneficial to him. If he was besieged by 4 Spirit King stage cultivators, it would be hard for him to survive. Yes, only the 4 of us are left. If you don't chase us out, you won't be able to pass the trial. Ming Chen clenched his fists. He had already finished healing and his condition was not very serious. Coupled with the good pills he had taken, he would recover very quickly. Each of them glared at Yi Tianyan. There was no fear in their hearts, only endless anger. Don't worry, one by one. There's no rush. Yi Tianyan pointed at Niu Tunshan and said, then you go first. With a tap of his finger, the invincible light on Niu Tunshan's body disappeared. It had just been released. Niu Tunshan raised his head to the sky and roared. The sound of a cow echoed through the clouds. Following that, his body started to grow bigger and bigger. He looked like a giant cow. In a blink of an eye, he became several times bigger than before. His cultivation of 3rd layer Spirit King stage was released, and the sky was instantly covered with thick black clouds, blocking the sunlight. Thunder and lightning intersected in the black clouds, continuously falling from above and striking his body. However, it didn't hurt him at all. Instead, it lit up the thunder energy in his body. The giant axe in his hand was lit up, and the dense thunder and lightning divine runes on it were stimulated. I will avenge men who... Niu Tunshan looked at Yi Tianyun coldly. Old bull, don't kill him. Baron's eyes were cold. They didn't want Niu Tunshan to kill Yi Tianyun so quickly. There were still a lot of things that they wanted to know. The key was that it would be too boring to kill Yi Tianyan so easily. Of course, I don't want to kill him so quickly. Niu Tunshan's 2 huge bull eyes burst out with killing intent. In an instant, he gripped the giant axe tightly and chopped down heavily. Accompanied by a loud bang, the sound of thunder illuminated the entire land. Thunder explosion. He aimed his axe at Yi Tianyan and fiercely chopped down. Even though there was a long distance between them, he still chopped down with all his might. Boom! The giant axe heavily chopped down on the hard ground. As soon as it hit the ground, a violent axe light turned into a huge thunder light, and instantly condensed into a huge bull that rushed towards Yi Tianyan. This overbearing attack instantly reached 510 million combat power. Not bad, but still a little bit lacking. Yi Tianyan didn't even try to dodge the attack. Instead, he used his crazy mode and slashed horizontally with his sword. His sword contained the netherworld fire and swept forward. The blue sword light was like a blooming flower, blooming in all directions. Bang! In an instant, the surging thunder light was cut in half by his blue sword light. The overbearing sword light continued to move forward. Such an overbearing attack was easily cut in half by Yi Tianyan, turning into countless light spots and dissipating. Niu Tunshan's face changed, but the next moment, he opened his mouth and a terrifying suction came from his mouth and swallowed the attack. However, after swallowing it, he was shocked and took a few steps back. His face changed slightly. It really can swallow anything. This martial art is not bad. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. His attack just now wasn't powerful enough. At most, he could display 560 million combat power, but he didn't use it at full power. Therefore, the rest of the attack was swallowed by Niu Tunshan. However, it was not easy to absorb it. This attack contained the netherworld fire, and it would take some time to absorb it easily. Netherworld fire. How do you know the netherworld fire? At this time, Ming Chen and the others were shocked. When they saw that Yi Tianyan had the netherworld fire, they were all stunned. Not to mention them, many of the surrounding cultivators were also shocked. Wasn't the netherworld fire something that only the heavenly netherworld divine nation could use? It should be said that most of the people who could use the netherworld fire had a high status, and they were all from the heavenly netherworld divine nation. Of course, there were also people who could use the netherworld fire, but they were not from the heavenly netherworld divine nation. The netherworld fire was not originally created by the heavenly netherworld divine nation. It was a fire of heaven and earth. As long as one could control it, one could absorb it. What's the problem? The netherworld fire was not created by the heavenly netherworld divine nation. Why are you so surprised? Yi Tianyan smiled faintly and said, "Of course, if you think that I am from the heavenly netherworld divine nation, I have no opinion." Chapter 535. No problem. Even if you have the netherworld flame, I will still swallow you. After Niu Tunshan adjusted his body's condition, he roared and rushed to Yi Tianyan's side. He opened his mouth and tried to swallow Yi Tianyan's body. A terrifying suction force was released from his mouth again. He wanted to suck Yi Tianyan in. Moreover, he did not need to suck him in. Instead, the spiritual power in Yi Tianyan's body began to be pulled out crazily. If it could only be effective by swallowing a person, then this martial art was really crippled. Niu Tunshan's martial art was called Devouring Heaven and Earth. It meant that he could devour anything in the world. Just by using it, he could devour the surrounding spiritual power, including the spiritual power in the cultivator's body. If the opponent was not sucked in, then the spiritual power in the body would be stripped out first, and then absorbed into the body. "Old ox, suck him dry," Baron coldly said. "Suck all the spiritual power in his body dry. Make sure he can't even move." Yes, old Niu's devouring power can even swallow a mountain. Let's see how this kid can deal with it. No matter what kind of attack it is, he can absorb it all. Mingchen nodded. Although he could not personally deal with Yi Tianyan, he could still torture him later. Everyone saw Niu Tunshan's strongest technique and nodded repeatedly. This time, the intruder will die without a doubt. Under the terrifying suction force, the surrounding spiritual power was quickly sucked in. Some gravel and even the clouds in the sky were instantly sucked in and swallowed into his stomach. This time, the devouring effect was much stronger than the previous attack. The previous attack was obviously a temporary one, so the effect was slightly weaker. When he used his full strength, the power suddenly increased by a lot. There was no blind spot. Unless one jumped out of the heavenly altar, they would be affected by the suction force. This was like a huge whirlpool. Yi Tianyan was near the whirlpool. Unless he left the sea, he would be sucked in. Boom. At this time, Yi Tianyan suddenly swung his sword. His fighting power did not change much, and it was still a very domineering sword. It turned into an extreme netherworld sword aura that pierced through and stabbed towards Niu Tunshan. However, just as it neared the Sky Devourer, a terrifying suction force fiercely sucked the attack into its mouth. However, it did not absorb it. Instead, its huge body instantly released a burst of power, gushing out from its back. This power was actually the attack that Yi Tianyan had released. However, he did not release all of it, leaving a small portion within his body. As for whether it was absorbed or stored inside and unable to be released, it was not clear. This attack is comparable to the absorbing star's great technique. Yi Tianyan squinted and watched. It was a very pure art of dissipation that quickly dissolved the attacks. However, Niu Tunshan was able to directly expel it. It was as if the attack had passed right through him, and the damage dealt to him was negligible. Haha, what an idiot. Attack to your heart's content. There is no effect at all. As long as this old bull completely releases the devouring heaven and earth, as long as it is not an extremely powerful existence, it will be powerless. Baron and the others finally felt a little better. At least there was a little hope. The morale of the surrounding people also rose slightly. They felt that Niu Tunshan could deal with Yi Tianyan. Although the attack was ineffective, Yi Tianyan was also not sucked in, and the spiritual power in his body was not stripped away. So overall he was fine. He originally wanted to use an even more domineering attack, but after thinking about it, he gave up, because he had a better plan. You want to compete with me in terms of suction? Yi Tianyun smiled knowingly. This was practically playing a monkey in front of him. Niu Tunshan's martial arts were very good, but his cultivation was there, and there would always be a limit to how much he could absorb. Once Yi Tianyun exploded beyond this limit, he would not be able to absorb it. He did not intend to do so, because if it was a competition of suction, he would definitely not admit defeat. The next moment, Yi Tianyun stretched out his hand, and in an instant, the power of the devouring divine art was released to the maximum, and an even more terrifying suction burst out. Niu Tunshan's suction was immediately overtaken, and he was slowly pulled over. What is going on? Niu Tunshan felt himself being pulled over bit by bit, and it was getting bigger and bigger. Not only did he not suck Yi Tianyun over, but he himself was forcibly pulled over. The surrounding people's eyes widened, and they felt that something was wrong with Niu Tunshan. Why was he moving forward bit by bit, as if he was being pulled over? Come here. Yi Tianyun stretched out his hand, and the suction increased again. With a whoosh, Niu Tunshan could no longer hold on, and he was sucked over. As soon as he was sucked over, Yi Tianyun quickly stepped forward, and the suction continued to be released without stopping. Niu Tunshan felt that something was wrong, and he quickly stopped using his martial arts. Instead, he used his big axe to hack down. Lightning flashed, and the sky released another bolt of divine lightning, wanting to strike him. Break for me! Niu Tunshan roared. The lightning came down in a frenzy, and when it got close to Yi Tianyun, it was quickly absorbed into his body, turning into a sea of experience that rose rapidly. Then, the attack was completely absorbed, and before it could even touch Yi Tianyun, it had already disappeared in front of him, leaving nothing behind. In reality, Yi Tianyun did not completely absorb it into his body. Instead, he used the absorbing star great technique to dissolve the power. He had only absorbed a small part of it, and much of it had been dissolved. What's going on? He can also devour heaven and earth? When they saw this, they were all stunned. No one had thought that Yi Tianyun could also use this move, absorbing the attack, leaving nothing behind. The key thing was that Niu Tunshan had used his mouth to swallow, while Yi Tianyun had used his hand to absorb the attack. There was no need to say which of the two was safer. Get down here. Yi Tianyun reached out his hand and pulled back, and a huge suction force pulled Niu Tunshan down fiercely. But Niu Tunshan was not one to be trifled with. He pushed his huge body back, trying to use his strength to break free of the suction force. However, Yi Tianyun was already in front of Niu Tunshan in the blink of an eye. He grabbed Niu Tunshan's wrist, and a terrifying suction force began to extract the spiritual power from Niu Tunshan's body. Get out of my way! Niu Tunshan roared, and he swung his arm, trying to shake Yi Tianyun off. But Yi Tianyun's small hand pressed down, and Niu Tunshan was pressed to the ground. There was a boom, and Niu Tunshan was half kneeling on the ground. This scene stunned many people. Niu Tunshan had the blood of the wild ox, so he was very strong. Who would have thought that he would be forced to kneel on the ground? Chapter 536. Niu Tunshan felt a terrifying power crushing down on his shoulders. He couldn't even lift them up. It was as if there were several mountains on his shoulders. He couldn't move at all. Kneel before me. Yi Tianyun's palm slammed down again, and Niu Tunshan, who was kneeling on the ground, was forced to kneel down, and his whole body was on the ground trying to support himself. While Niu Tunshan was supporting himself, Yi Tianyun continued to absorb the spiritual energy in his body. Right now there was a strange sight to behold. Even though this petite human was not small in stature, compared to Niu Tunshan he was way too small. It was like comparing an adult to a child. However, such a small body was able to suppress Niu Tunshan, making him unable to move at all. Yi Tianyun's cultivation has been greatly enhanced, and he has activated crazy mode, so Niu Tunshan was crushed in an instant. Yi Tianyun wouldn't have been able to do this if his cultivation was lower, but now he could do it. This was one of the benefits of increasing his cultivation. With the help of crazy mode's explosive effect, Tianyan would be able to kill Spirit King stage cultivators even if he was a level higher than himself. Because of this, Tianyan was not in a hurry to kill them, so he could absorb their spiritual energy first. Tianyan wanted to kill them, but he needed to increase his cultivation level. Tianyan wanted to increase his cultivation level, otherwise, it would be very difficult to deal with Ming Chun and the others. However, in the eyes of others, Tianyan wanted to humiliate Niu Tenshin and force him to submit to Tianyan. "Get out of my way!" Niu Tenshin shouted as he tried to break free from Tianyan's grasp. Tianyan was suppressing Niu Tenshin, and he was constantly being sucked out of his body. "What? You don't want to submit?" Tianyan increased the strength of his hand, and Niu Tenshin was directly pressed to the ground, and he couldn't even stand up. If the ground was not too hard, Niu Tenshin would have already been pressed to the ground. "Aren't you very strong just now? Didn't you want to eat me? Come on," Tianyan sneered. "You know what your brother Menhu did. He did such a bad thing, so he deserved to die." Tianyan thought about the bloody scene and felt disgusted. However, there were many people like Niu Tenshin, and all of them were ruthless people. "You are all a bunch of trash, so what if you die? It's the law of the jungle." Bang! Tianyan slammed his foot on Niu Tenshin's body, breaking many of his bones, and seriously injuring Niu Tenshin, making him vomit blood. The huge body quickly shrank back to its original size, and the aura from before immediately disappeared. Being suppressed to this extent, what kind of aura could it have? It couldn't display any power. "It's the law of the jungle, so I'm going to crush you bit by bit," Tianyan said coldly. "Bastard." Tianyan's of Niu Tenshin's of the jungle is of the jungle, Niu Tenshin's bodies and Niu Tenshin. Many people looked at each other in dismay. Niu Tenshin was completely suppressed, both in terms of power and gravitational force. "I will kill you," Tianyan furiously said. "If you have the ability, let him go down. I will deal with you." Tianyan's group is furious. They want to fight one-on-one with Tianyan. "Don't worry, I will entertain you one by one. There is no need to be so anxious." Tianyan coldly smiled. "You will not let any of them go. Let go of your foot and get down from here. If you have the ability to bully the weak, then come at me." "That's right. Hurry up and get off the stage. Let's move on to the next round. We'll satisfy you." Tianyan's group began to curse. They even said the words "bully the weak." It is ridiculous. Tianyan is now madly absorbing Niu Tenshin's spiritual energy. No matter what people say, he does not care. He continued to devour Niu Tenshin's spirit energy, draining it bit by bit. Finally, Niu Tenshin's spiritual energy is completely drained. Tianyan gained a lot of experience. He is very satisfied. "It's about time." Tianyan lifted his foot, but Niu Tenshin is lying on the ground, unable to move at all. His spiritual energy is completely drained, plus he is seriously injured. He can't even stand up. In the next moment, he kicked Niu Tenshin, sending him flying with a loud thud. "Quick, save him!" Tianyan shouted. At this time, Tianyan quickly pulled out his sword and slashed at Niu Tenshin's body. Niu Tenshin is unable to block the attack. He can only look at the incoming sword chi. Puchi! The sword chi immediately cut Niu Tenshin in two, and he finally fell down from the heaven altar. Even if someone came to rescue him, they would only save a corpse. King successfully killed Niu Tenshin. Reward: 120. 000. 000 EXP, 8. 000 CPS 1. 600 SPS. Obtained martial arts, Devouring Heaven and Earth, Tyrant Thunder Slash, Raging Bull Rush. Obtained items, Thunder Axe High-Grade Sacred Tool, Thunder Armor, High-Grade Sacred Tool, Thunder Boots, High-Grade Sacred Tool, Raging Bull Horn, High-Grade Sacred Tool Material Rare, Raging Bull Bloodline 4th Grade Bloodline Rare. After successfully killing Niu Tenshin, a lot of items dropped. This is a matter of course. But it is a pity that killing Niu Tenshin is not that easy. But after killing Niu Tenshin, the total amount of experience is almost 200 million, which is very satisfying. As he continued to absorb, he gained quite a bit of experience. Old Bull. They roared. It seems that there is no way to save Neo-Tenshin, but there is nothing they can do. What's wrong? You are angry too? I thought you are all cold-blooded. Yi Tianyan said indifferently. You killed Old Bull. Choose me if you have the ability. Yi Tianyan said. His whole body is covered with thick dragon armor. He is so angry that he burst out with all his strength, wanting to cut Yi Tianyan into pieces. Don't worry, it will be your turn soon. I will choose you first. Yi Tianyan pointed at Nangongming. Nangongming's cultivation is stronger than Neo-Tenshin's as he is at 4th layer Spirit King stage. It is undoubtedly the best choice for Yi Tianyan to choose from Neo-Tenshin's side. Choose me? Do you think I am easy to deal with? Nangongming's voice sounded. His eyes flashed with blue light, and no one knows what kind of ability he has, except for Yi Tianyan. He had been thoroughly probed, and all his martial arts had been exposed. His weakness was simple and crude, unyielding fire. Chapter 537. Nangongming stood up and released a mysterious aura from his body. Only a few people knew Nangongming's true level. Even his attacks were very few. The surrounding people felt that Nangongming could deal with Yi Tianyan. Especially since he was so mysterious, no one knew what his absolute art was, including what kind of power he had. Yes, I just think that you are easy to deal with. Yi Tianyan responded rudely. Nangongming's cold eyes flashed with a flame. And it was a real flame, netherworld flame. He could also use the netherworld flame, and it was not a weak netherworld flame. He was very close to Mingchen, so it was not surprising that he could use netherworld flame, but to what extent he could use it, it was another matter. Other people did not know about his situation, but Yi Tianyan was very clear about it. In fact, Nangongming was similar to Mingchen. There was not much difference in the absolute arts he knew. They were all types of netherworld divine palm. These were extremely strong absolute arts, and they were also absolute arts that could display his own power, so it was not surprising that he could practice them. Some people always think that I am very low-key, but it does not mean that I am weak. Boy, it is your honor to choose me, but it is also your fear. Nangongming's voice was still very unpleasant, and it sounded even more ear-piercing, but no one dared to laugh at him. No matter what flaws a powerhouse had, whether it was appearance, voice, or physical defects, no one would laugh at them. Their own strength was their biggest highlight. Even if they had lost their legs, as long as their strength was there, no one would dare to laugh at them. They would only respect them. Bear. Netherworld flame emerged from his palm. It was a middle-grade earth rank flame. It was a level lower than Yi Tianyan's. Originally, this thing was very difficult to improve, but Yi Tianyan could absorb the heavenly Yin flame to strengthen himself, so he was a level higher than them. I want to see whether your netherworld flame is stronger, or my netherworld flame is stronger. Nangongming's eyes turned cold. The next moment, a huge phantom was released from his back. It was not a netherworld dragon, but a netherworld flower. It bloomed layer by layer behind him. With each layer that was released, the flames grew in intensity. When all of them were released, his entire body was enveloped in flames. It was as if the god of fire had descended. If there was anything around him, it would be ignited in an instant. Nangongming was cautious when facing his enemy. He used his strongest power right from the start, using the power of the phantom. His battle power skyrocketed, reaching 650 million in an instant, crushing Neo-Tenshin. This was a matter of course. His cultivation was already higher than Neo-Tenshin's, and he also had the flames of the netherworld. With that, his battle prowess would not be weak. Won't you know once you try? When Yi Tianyan saw these flames, he felt that a feast had arrived. He could properly absorb these flames and increase his proficiency. I advise you not to move recklessly. Otherwise, I won't be able to control my strength and you'll be reduced to ashes. I don't want to see that happen. Nangongming walked towards Yi Tianyan step by step. Every step he took left a fiery footprint on the ground, like a flower blooming on the ground. It was just that the ground was too hard, otherwise there would have been a big hole in it. Don't worry, I won't move recklessly. Yi Tianyan smiled faintly. I'll stay in this area and wait for you to come. He also drew a circle on the side, indicating that he would not walk out of this circle. Very good, very good. Minghua possession. In the next moment, Nangongming burst out again. The Minghua behind him instantly entered his body, and the flames instantly bloomed to the extreme. Then he stepped on the ground and grabbed towards Yi Tianyun. The flames in his hand condensed into countless petals of the Minghua, falling from the sky, sealing off all the escape routes for Yi Tianyun. Although Yi Tianyun said that he would not leave this small circle, no one would believe the words of their enemy. It's Minghua. I've seen Lord Nangongming's unique skill before. As long as you touch it a little, all the petals will gather and instantly ignite him. It's too scary. There's nowhere to hide. Once you touch it, you'll definitely die. No wonder Lord Nangongming told us not to move recklessly, or we'll be burnt to ashes. Looks like Lord Nangongming will definitely win this time. When they saw this scene, they were all extremely excited. Nangongming was much stronger than Niu Tenshin, and just based on his skills alone, he was already stronger. The moment he attacked, he released the Minghua, sealing off all the escape routes. Next, Nangongming waved his hand, and the flames in his hand turned into a vine whip, curling towards Yi Tianyun at a very fast speed. In the blink of an eye, it had wrapped around Yi Tianyun's body, one round after another. It did not even use any destructive power, and he was easily trapped. Very good, come over here. Nangongming's eyes lit up, and he suddenly dragged Yi Tianyun towards him. But Yi Tianyun just stood there, not moving at all. Why did you not eat? Continue dragging. Yi Tianyun crossed his arms, looking at Nangongming calmly. Nangongming's face darkened. He had already used all his strength, but he still could not move. After Yi Tianyun used the Dragon God bloodline, after its grade increased, his strength was extremely tyrannical. Who could compete with him in strength? He could easily crush them without any effort. Since you don't have any strength, let me help you. Yi Tianyun grabbed the whip formed by the netherworld flame and pulled it towards him. Nangongming could not resist at all, and was immediately pulled over. Nangongming's face changed, and he quickly broke the flame, forming a seal with both hands, and his eyes flashed with cold fire. Die! In an instant, the surrounding petals surrounded Yi Tianyun crazily. Before they were about to collide, they had already turned into balls of flames, and in an instant, Yi Tianyun was enveloped inside, and his figure could not be seen. Don't kill him, Baron hurriedly shouted. They did not want Yi Tianyun to die. That would be letting him off too easily. The most important thing was that they did not manage to force out a lot of things. Don't worry, at most he will be heavily injured, he will not die. Before Nangongming finished speaking, a whip suddenly lashed out from inside, and quickly tied him up. Without waiting for him to react, he was pulled into the bonfire and burned together with him. This sudden change caused many people's hearts to tremble. What is going on? In the next moment, a whirlpool appeared in the netherworld flame that was enveloping Yi Tianyun. The netherworld flame was constantly being absorbed, and in the blink of an eye, more than half of it was gone. At this time, two figures appeared in front of them. Yi Tianyun was not injured at all, and the flames were still being absorbed into his body. He was completely fine. On the other hand, Nangongming was ruthlessly stepped on, and he could not move at all. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.